you know.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Recording in progress. Ready to start the show. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host on Archery Talk 101. And we have Caleb on the line with us today. We're going to be chatting with him. But before we get started, just want to let everybody know how you can watch or listen to the podcast. If you go wherever you get your podcast, listen to them, you can get them there, as well as if you go out to audible.com. I'm also on there as well. That's free to listen to. Audibles you have to pay for, but this is a free one. So just click to it and you'll get notified when new podcasts come out. As well as you can watch this video, which is always a nice one. If you can watch the podcast, you can. Sometimes we're talking about stuff and demonstrating. It's nice to be able to see it. You can watch those on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself, as well as you can watch the video on my timeline, as well as probably the best place to watch it would be in the Facebook group, Arch Talk 101. There we upload this video to it. If you have any questions or anything, that's a good place to ask them. If you having struggles with your shooting form, take a video of it, upload it to the group. We'll take a look at it. If you're having trouble with your archery equipment, give a description, take pictures if possible, and upload it, and we'll take a look at it and see what goes on. It's a safe place to get good answers because we don't sell anything in that group. We don't allow that, so that's nice and safe that way. So you're not going to be bombarded with that. Well, now all that out of the way, hey, let's get started talking with Caleb. It's going to be a fun day today. Caleb, how about if you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little something about you?
Yeah, so I'm Caleb Wesaw. Originally grew up in the Midwest, actually Southwest Michigan. Moved around a little bit. Currently reside in Arizona, Tucson specifically. Archery's, been a big part of really what I do daily, but through my upbringing as well. My family's involved with it. That's how I got initially started was, through my dad with, like most people, right? You get introduced by somebody that has a significant role in your life, and that happened to be my dad. So it's been a fun time. Continue to learn, continue to enjoy the outdoors and archery specifically. But, you got to take all of it and create new memories, right? Appreciate what you have and just enjoy it. So that's where I am currently.
Yeah, that's always a common theme. A lot of kids get started in archery because of their parents, and others, don't have parents do that, and they just pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, archery is for most, I think most of your listeners, obviously, Archery Talk 101, right? So hopefully that's the thing that's drawn their interest to this. I think once people have a positive archery experience, whether that's at a child introductory level or even as an adult, it becomes pretty addictive, right? I mean, and that's healthy. That's healthy for the archery community. It's healthy for businesses. It's great. We need more growth, and having people exposed to the sport is the only way we can do that. Having those positive interactions. So that's kind of where I am currently as far as how can we give back to archery, right? Opinions are everybody has one and they're great. Everybody should have an opinion, but how can we benefit the sport? So the more we can get that out there, I think the better off we are.
So, what's one of your first memories of picking up a bow and shooting? What kind of bow was it, and what was your first experience with it?
Right. So I can remember the first bow I ever remember laying my hands on would have been a bear, and it was red, and it was a recurve. And I can't remember if I got that through another family member, or if it was one of those garage sale bargains that I talked my grandma into snagging up. And I didn't like the fact that it was red, so I painted it. My grandma on the other side was into painting arts anyways, and I snagged some of her paint and I redid it all. So that was where the adventure started, and I probably shot a plethora of things out of that bow that shouldn't have been shot in, but at 15 pounds it's pretty forgiving.
Yeah,
No injuries were sustained, so that was a win.
yeah, that's a win. When you start off, real light poundage bow, and
Yep.
my first bow was a 25-pound Ben Pearson. It was a
Okay.
fiberglass
Yep.
bow,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
back then, there was no carbon arrows; they didn't exist yet.
Correct.
And of course, that was in the mid '60s. So I've been
Okay.
shooting for you know, 60 years.
Sure. Yeah. No,
And,
that's great.
and
I mean,
it's all changed since
oh,
then, but
it has. Yeah. And then from that point, I actually went into a high country, and I can't recall the name. I wanted to say it was a whitetail two or something like that. I don't really recall the model, and that was a big like step for me because I believe that was 40 pounds, and I was just getting to the age where I was going to be able to hunt. And I had a Keller pendulum sight. Fiber optics were just coming out. You know, Cobra was a big company at that point,
yeah.
but the sight that I had glow in the dark jigging paint for fishing lures on it, and the top one was green and the bottom one was orange. And you know, the claim to fame with that was sighted in at 20 and you're good at 30 out of a tree stand. And
Yeah.
being from Michigan, that tree stand hunting is let's go. So it was fun.
Yeah, I remember the pendulum site.
Yep.
Set up correctly was kind of cool idea.
Oh yeah.
In
Yep.
practice, it was a little more difficult than what they said, but there's all kinds of things you do to set them up, not just set them level on the ground. Then you had to
Yep.
go up in the tree and shoot and set the counterbalance so that it balanced the right way. And but
Yep.
once you got set up, for most hunting,
It's
we're 20
pretty.
yards or less.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yep. So yeah, I started there, and that got me going in archery hunting. What really inspired me, I picked up an Oneida Black Eagle, and it was at a young age. I think I was around 14, and it was the look of the bow. Right, I had no idea what I was getting into. I just thought it was cool. It had a Bow Doodle Pro, I believe, on there, and that was in the early 2000s, late 90s, and I had so much fun with that bow. That kind of stair stepped into simultaneously at that time I was in competitive paintball, and one of the shops that we had locally, they got into the paintball game, and they hired me on to run the courses and whatnot. And that's really where archery took off for me. I didn't even hire into an archery shop for archery related um, knowledge or experience. That just became a byproduct, and then paintball phased out and I stayed on. And at that point I had been bitten by the archery bug. it, that was that's all I cared about. uh, it was good. It was good. I think it's great for young people to have something that they focus their energy on, something positive, something that they can get some relief, whether that's from friend groups or parents. I mean, we all go through changes, and archery
Yeah.
ended up being that for me. And it's been a part of my life, and it's been great. I No regrets. I have a lot to be thankful for, and archery has a big part of that.
Yeah, that's quite a interesting journey. We going from paintball to archery, and I know when I had my store, I sold paintball equipment as well as archery, and I sold fishing and fishing tackle and martial arts equipment, and pretty much anything I could that people had that needed a market for it, I'd try and carry it, and
Sure. Yeah. No, it going back to what you had stated earlier, how things have changed. It's crazy how things have changed over the last even really 22 years is about the amount of time that I have into archery at a significant level where it really caught my interest and attention. And just the things that we know about equipment nowadays. I'm by no means an engineer, but I get to entertain and play with some engineers, and how we've been able to get where we are today is really fascinating. And it all goes back to the bow that you started with, the bow that I started with, the experiences with the pendulum sights. It's every part of that, as silly as maybe some of them are, they've all played a significant role in getting us where we are today. And that's cool.
right.
I see some of the stuff right now that comes out, in example being like the prime bow. I think that aesthetically maybe it's not for some people, but I think it's really a pretty interesting play on carbon and the direction that they're going. I think they have a lot of excitement for their future. Um, all the companies do. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty much any of the new bows nowadays. They're made of good enough quality that
Oh
you're
yeah.
not going to have trouble with any of them. It's just a matter of what fits you the best.
Oh, absolutely. And like personalities, everybody has a style, and there's going to be one that's a better match for you. And it's just exciting to see what the future's going to hold. You
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the things that you just never know. And I know that when I had my store back in 2002, I think it was, um, PSE bought Browning Archery.
Yeah.
And Browning Archery had this one bow. I forget, I don't remember what the model number or anything, but it had two cams on the top. They're
Mm-hmm.
counter rotating.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was cool. I want to shoot that bow.
Yeah.
I could not get that bow to fit me no matter what I did. And that's my job is setting bows up.
Right.
I just could not get that bow to fit me. So I wasn't going to shoot it. It just, no matter what I did, it just never felt right for me.
Yeah.
And I found somebody else and they just loved it. But, you know,
Yeah.
for me, it didn't work. And, that's what we go through. It's like, get something that fits you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It goes back to having, again, a positive archery experience. And if you're enjoying what you're using, you're going to do it more. Right. And naturally, you should get better, if you have a system in place to measure your performance and achieve your goals. So, yeah, they're all great. I'll be transparent. I actually work for PSE, so if I come off being biased in some way, that's the driving factor behind that.
Well,
But
it's funny you'd mentioned that because um, my first bow was American Challenger. It was bought out by High Country. And
okay,
then when that one broke and I had to get the High Country, I was waiting because it broke like 3 weeks for hunting season. And I've talked this on another podcast. I bought my first PSE.
okay,
And then later on, I bought a Matthews. And then in 2001, when I bought the archery store, they were a PSE dealer. So now I'm a PSE dealer, and now I'm
okay,
shooting PSE. And so I have two PSE compounds, a PSE recurve. All my kids are shooting PSEs.
hmm
So if I come out biased to PSE, well, you know why. So
yeah, yeah. No, it like I tell everybody, when you're getting into archery, what you really need is an education, right? And we
right,
all, no matter what corner you're in or what company you support, if we all advocate for that, right? Like you should buy X, Y, or Z. Uh, I think at the end of the day, if you're not a customer at this moment, maybe you'll be a future customer, right? So as long as
right.
we present ourselves well and we're producing a quality product, which we do, hopefully at some point we cross paths and you're able to have an awesome experience with a bow that we manufacture, right? So the best thing you could do is go out and shoot as many as you possibly can, right?
Yes.
And have somebody that's willing to invest the time and say, hey, this one maybe feels better, or this one fits you better. How can we make this work, right? But you have to enjoy what you've got. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, you do. You gotta enjoy it. And that's the whole thing. We're in this because it's fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yep. I mean, I've got a couple bows behind me that I get to play with a lot of different stuff, but there's a couple hanging there that I just know I can pick up, and I'm going to have an absolute blast when I pick them up, and that's what archery is all about. You know,
Right. Yeah.
that's good. Where was your shop located? Where did you have a
It,
store
it,
again?
it was in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, Omaha, Nebraska. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It originally started out just bait and tackle. It was called the tackle box. And the guy that first started, all he did is fix reels, sell fishing tackle, and sell bait. And
Okay.
then the next owner added in black powder stuff, and I think he also had an FFL, so he'd order guns in. But that's pretty much all they did. And then they added in. I don't remember if he added archery in or the next owner added in archery. And then couldn't be a Matthews dealer because it was one within 50 miles of here where I was
Right.
at. So it couldn't be a Matthews dealer and you know, PSE dealer. And at that time there was uh two, three other archery shops around
Okay.
in Omaha, and then one. I think there was one somewhere else, but there's three of them in Omaha, and I was the only one exclusively, you know, that sold PSE, Browning, and Archery Research, which is another PSE bow line they had for a while.
Yeah.
And I sold more PSEs than the rest of them put together
Yeah.
because I
Now it,
pushed them.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a big part even in today. I mean, if you have somebody that advocates for the brand at a shop, there's probably going to be more traction there, right? Because for the most part, the quality is all on the same plane. You know, they're all good. The recipes have been so far um, mastered or refined that you're going to get a quality product wherever you go.
Yeah, they are, and there's just a little difference in how they fit and feel, and
Yeah.
some will take a dry fire better than others, but none
Yeah.
of them should be dry fired. You
Correct.
know, there's always a problem, but you know, I have seen PSEs get dry fired and look them over, and it's like, oh, okay, you lucked out this like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the other brands that they shot, they're blown up. You're
Yeah.
not taking a second shot,
Yeah.
and you know that's just you know their design is sturdy for dry fires.
Right.
Um, There was one that was come out as all carbon fiber. I forget who put it out. Was designed you could dry fire them all day long if you wanted. They were
Hmm.
designed to take it, but you know back then you was looking at the high end bow was $700-800 just plain bow, you know, not in
Oh yeah.
kits, and theirs was probably twice that.
Hmm. I feel like that may have been High Country. They're like in the early, not early, but like mid 2000s. They made a really heavy push, and I felt like they may have came out with something. Speed
Yeah,
was Speed was really of that time period. You know, you had the X Force and High Country was out with their bows, and I think didn't they have some type of it was like a cheetah arrow. I mean, 5 grains per pound IBO speed was all the rage and all the talk, but that was during the time when 320 foot, 330 foot was fast. It was
right.
fast. Yeah.
Well, I know when I had my Matthews Q2, it was rated like 305 or something like that. I don't remember the
Yeah.
exact number. So if I'm off a little bit,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember from that was what 20 almost 25 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I,
then when I went down to Tucson, Arizona at the dealer school, because a dealer and part of the dealer school, you got to pick out a bow as part of the cost of the school.
yeah.
And I have flat out told them, so I'm shooting a Matthews Q2, which one should I be shooting?
Mm-hmm.
And so I come up with the PSE Carrera, as which I still have that bow from a hunting bow, and it was
Wow.
rated at 320 feet per second.
Yeah.
And now I'm not shooting anywhere, it won't shoot anywhere near that because I've got little heavier arrows in it.
Yeah.
There's another whole story on why I've got extra heavy arrows. Um, they were actually spined for heavier spine than what I needed, which meant they're heavy arrows. So I had to replace them. I had to put weight tubes in them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Wait.
to get up the weight to the thing because I don't want to change up my pins.
Yeah.
And um, after that, it's probably shooting, I don't know, 270, 280. But I have
Yeah.
string silencers, I have the string leeches on the strings and the
Yeah.
cables. I have a peep on there. I have a kisser button. I have a loop. All that stuff on there slows it down. I'm
Sure.
not shooting a 350 grain arrow. I was shooting 70 pounds, but at 29 inches, not 30. So, I'm not going
Yeah.
to get that rated speed, but I didn't care. I'm shooting fixed blade muzzies. So,
Yeah.
I don't want 320 feet per second because it makes it hard to control.
Yeah. Yeah. Muzzies. Yeah. Shooting through steel drums. Who was teaching the dealer school at that time period when you were down there?
Um, oh, geez, I'm trying to remember who all was there. Um, the one guy that was teaching it, he had come up with his own bow jig for setting the third axis on your
Oh, the bright
bows.
bright
And,
side.
and yeah, I don't remember who it
Okay.
was. Like I said, that was so long ago. And,
Hmm.
his levels were metal. The
Yep.
ones you got to get now are plastic. Mine ended up getting stolen out of storage when I closed my store, put them in storage, and somebody cut the lock off the back of storage and took a lot of stuff. And
Okay.
they took the levels, and I don't do it enough to spend the money to buy the metal ones now.
Sure. Sure.
The
Yeah.
plastic ones work, not as good, but they work.
Yeah. Yep. Now we have quite a few people that still inquire about the dealer school. That really that went a long ways with dealers and even consumers. We still have consumers, dealers call in. Hey, are you guys going to do the dealer school? Is that going to come back around? There's a lot of interest in that. I think that just uh, shows that the industry it craves more information, right? They want to have those experiences and
Right.
YouTube and what we're doing right now having a podcast is information is really at your fingertips and you can find almost anything nowadays on what you want even in archery,
Right.
and it's a relatively small community, but if you have an interest for it you can find it. But,
Well, and just to say how long ago, there were still quite a few new bows made with steel cables.
oh yeah.
Part of the dealer school was taught how to make strings as well as how to make the steel cables.
Yeah.
Yeah, that now if you have a bow with a steel cable on it and it breaks,
Hmm.
you're not finding one
No, no.
because
I
nobody has them.
Yeah, ironically, I know of a couple shops in California that have all the tools to make the teardrops and do all of that. But you're right. That is you're you're looking at scarcity there because not many people have the knowledge or the tools to be able to do that. But we have a lot of people that call in looking for string specs for those systems still. It's really pretty neat. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a testament to the product that was produced during that era. For it to be around this long and still people are out there having a good time with it. Good on them.
yeah.
Good on them.
A friend of mine, she come across an old bow in her grandma's house,
Hmm.
had steel cable on it. And it's weird, normally you got the teardrop end where you have either one or you have two and change it. No, this
Yep.
looks like it has it's the lead comes down and there's like three little pieces stick out the side, almost like a Christmas tree. And you can
Okay.
fasten them on that one. It's like I've never seen one with that type connection in there.
Huh.
And the string is broke up, so I have no clue what the size of the string is.
Sure.
And you can tell the plastic cams have been, kind of messed up a little bit. But, I may put a string on it just to relieve some of the tension off of off the cables. But,
Yeah.
if you're going to make a string, they're just a fairly small one because they're more like,
Yeah.
they're only
45 inches,
30,
50.
30, 45 inch, something like that.
Yeah.
They're not very big. And I've played around making some little sample colored combinations
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But I sure wouldn't use fast flight with it. I'd use, like a B500 or something like that. Or what BCY makes a B500, but they can carry in that one carried something else used for traditional bows. And, so
Yep.
finding the specs on it, it's like, they don't make it anymore. So I got lots of rolls, lots of colors, so I had
Yeah.
no store, 40 years ago, or 20 years ago, it was, a lot of different colors. And when I had my shop, I made my own strings
Okay. Yep.
because then
Now that's.
I stocked every possible string and cable combination you could have, as
Hmm.
well as colors. And, you'd pick out the colors and I had, ways that I made them. And, that way, you come in, emergency, you need a string. Well, as long as it's not busy in the store, an hour, you're out the door with a new string.
Yep. No, that's really handy, especially during those time periods, because I mean, you had a limited number of string manufacturers at that point in time. Now there's a lot of different string manufacturers, and there's a lot of really good ones too. It's just like those. There's way more that consumers have at their disposal for choices across the board. I mean, sights, rests, release, everything in every single category, right? And I think that's what's one of the cool things about that.
But and I remember when I was going from the old bracket with the little pins on it that you'd
Yeah.
move up, you'd loosen up, move them up and down, and
Yep.
process of tightening them, and pin and move left or right, and
Yep.
it constantly moving. They're not very accurate, and I wanted something better. And I'm looking all over the place, and finally I found one that looked pretty decent. So I went to the shop. This is where I had my shop or anything, and I went to the one that I really like to go to, and it says, can you get this site? It's like, yeah, we can get that for you. And so got it in. It's like, that's pretty cool. But nowadays it's not a very good site compared to what they have now. But then it was best thing they had out. And that's, probably at least 50 years ago now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how long did you have your shop for, roughly?
I had it for about 3 years. I had the
Okay.
shop.
Yeah.
And then, going through divorce and everything, it just,
Okay.
it wasn't going to work. And so
Gotcha.
then after that, then I went to work for Bass Pro, and then I
Okay.
worked for there for a while, and then I went to work for Cabela's, and then after I left there, then Cabela's got bought out by Bass Pro, and
Yeah.
that's what I say. Go to the pro shop, even though when it was here in Council Bluffs, Bass Pro, or La Vista's Cabela's, we had very good bow techs and
Sure.
very good instructors in the archery departments.
Yep.
But that was kind of the unusual thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Cabela's up here, you're lucky to find anybody that knows much about archery. Last time I went in, the guy was, he shot traditional equipment, but he didn't really know much about anything else.
Right.
And then one time I went in, it's like, well, I was looking for a job in one of the departments, but they said they had an opening in archery, and I'd shot a couple of times when I was a kid. So, all right, you're now the archery tech.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's understandable. I thought you were going to tell me you realized that you weren't able to get out and hunt or fish as much as you wanted to once you owned a shop, so that's why you got out of it.
No. Well, that was true, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's something that I hear way too often. You do something that you really enjoy, you're passionate about it, and for some reason the other things just kind of disappear. What's that?
yeah,
There's that you hear that analogy. The car mechanics always got the worst car.
you're right.
The archery shop's got the most limited time to go and archery hunt. So
Well,
that's fun.
and then you get out there, and you're thinking about the shop, constantly thinking and thinking. I know when archery season come up, the one year it's like, I'm out in a tree stand, and I'm not even thinking about being in the woods. I'm thinking about what I need to get done when I get done. And then finally it took, probably 5 or 6 times getting out there before I was like, okay, I'm back into the normal mode of hunting and not thinking
Yep.
about anything except just enjoying being out there. And it takes a while when you're thinking about so many things. And that's what's
Yeah.
nice about archery hunting is you get to get out there and sit, and there's nobody around. And sometimes it's like you're the only noise in the whole forest.
Yeah. Yeah. The peace and quiet I agree. It when I was younger, everybody's got an agenda, everybody's got goals, right? And I don't mean agenda in a negative manner. It's like I need to do this, I need to do that. Now I just go out there to enjoy it. When I'm able to get out, I guess if shooting a deer or harvesting a deer is what defines me as a hunter, I'm pretty lousy because the time that I get to go out is very limited, but I enjoy every minute of it. So I'll take that. That's a win for me right now. I've
Yeah.
got, like most people, I've got family, and that takes priority. And the selfish side of me, the little kid in me, still is like, let's go every morning. There's always something that we'd like to do, but those priorities are always priorities. So,
Yeah. Get out there and practice. So
yeah.
have you done very many tournaments?
So around 2006, I started shooting in tournaments. I want to say the first tournament I went to was like the Great Lakes Indoor Sectionals, and that was up in Irons, Michigan. And I was lucky to be surrounded by some really great shooters, uh, very accomplished on a national level. And they kind of mentored me and would drag me around, and that created some pretty cool opportunities for me. And I went from the sectional shoot, which I really participated in quite frequently each year. Then I went to indoor nationals, and to be completely honest, it was just an expense thing. I just couldn't afford to shoot as much as I desired. Now, as I got a little bit older, I got into the IBO. The IBO circuit was more north, right? I mean, it was ASA has always kind of resided in those southern states, and again, overall expenses, I was never able to do that. But the IBO at that point in time, I shot in the MBO class, which was unknown yardage, which it still is, but that was 50 yards, and I want to say it was 5 grains per pound is what you could run. There was really no speed limit at that point. I don't know if those things have changed. And I did that for 4 or 5 years and had a blast. And there were times I shouldn't have went. I have some stories about almost being stranded in Pennsylvania because I didn't have enough money to get back home. Call, Calling my parents and asking for money wasn't something that wasn't accepted. So you better figure it out. You got yourself in that situation, so you better get yourself out of it. But I look back now and laugh, and I think, man, if my kids did that, I'd be sweating it. But it was fun, great time. Really, at that point, that lasted until around like 2012, 2013, and I had graduated high school and kind of started on my adulthood, we'll call it, career path, and that led me into the casino industry. I started in casinos at 18 years old, and that was great. I was around a lot of very successful people. It created opportunities for growth professionally and personally, as far as classes, mentorships, and I really focused on that. To be honest, I did leave for a short period of time because like most kids, I thought, hey, maybe college is the better way. And I think it was maybe more of an scapegoat to try to have some more enjoyable time. And I realized that wasn't for me. So I spent almost 10 years in the casino industry, and I went through, like I said, a lot of leadership positions, supervisory positions into management. And that really helped me tremendously. I had our daughter, I believe in, well, not believe. We had her in 2013, and I want to say I was 23 at the time, so relatively young. I had a lot of learning, still figuring out who the heck I was, right? And then I got to figure out how the heck to be a parent. So it's been good. It's been a fun journey, and I don't have any regrets with that. It, it would have been really nice to be able to try to chase the archery circuit. I always felt like I had more to prove, but to be honest, you got to be able to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and I've never been able to put it together mentally at a high level. From a mechanical standpoint, from a fundamental processes, I'm there. I was able to do that, and I was able to dedicate the time to practice. But when it came to high pressure situations, just the mental side of it, and to be able to manage those emotions, I just never put myself in enough of those situations to refine that, and that was on me. So there's always still that little bit of you got more to prove, but right now I don't have the time to prove it. So maybe one day I'll cross that path again. But,
Well, and that's a big part of archery is the mental game.
no, it's 100%. I
Yeah.
mean, there's only so much equipment that you can get that's going to help you. And the thing is there's levels. There's 100% levels to it. You can definitely buy yourself into a better position, but there's a ceiling there where you've maxed out every gadget, everything that you can possibly ask for, and that becomes hard for some people, because now you really have to look yourself in the mirror and all the excuses are gone. And
Yep.
like most things, there are no shortcuts. You know, I just was having a conversation with a young guy at work today, and I said, everybody is blessed. It's just how God blesses you is different, but it's on you to take advantage of those opportunities and those blessings that He's given you. Some people are naturally more talented than others, but there is no shortcut for success. I don't care what sport it is. I was in sports in high school, and what you put into it is 100% what you'll get out of it. And even if the best that you can give that day isn't the best to win, you still prove something to yourself. And as long as you've got a system in place, it's just a stair that you have to climb to get to the next step. There's something to
Yeah.
be learned from everything. So
So you're still in the casino area, or are you not?
So no, the to answer that, no. So I work for PSE full time
Okay.
in Tucson. We moved out here in 2013. No, I'm sorry, 2013, 2021, I believe initially, and I was working as a sales rep for them. We actually moved back to Michigan I'm going to get my years all mixed up here, but we moved back to Michigan, I believe, in 23. We were there for a short period of time, and then I got hired by PSE as an internal person at the factory. So in a very quick turnaround, my family relocated back to Arizona, and that's where we are currently. The casino industry got us to Arizona. I was originally hired as a casino operations manager for a casino just south of Phoenix. And that's initially what got us out here. And we were very excited for that opportunity. Again, the casino industry is, along with archery, has really blessed me in many ways and my family. But once I was presented with, hey, you can get into the outdoor industry, that had been something that I'd wanted to do for a long time. I really thought at an early age, wrapping up this into shooting, my dad told me, you're not going to make enough money shooting a bow. So you might as well get that out of your mind and figure out what you're going to do to survive as an adult. And to preface it, I had a great dad. So it wasn't like it was very rigid and, a dream killer, but his sense of reality was much different than mine as a 16-year-old kid. So when I figured that out, getting into the archery industry and being able to have that as something that supported my family was a major goal. And like I said, that was presented to us, I believe, in 21, and it's been great. Lots to learn. There's, like everything, you have some sour apples here and there, but for the most part, this industry is really good people, and I think it's important to remember the common denominator, right? We're all doing this because either A, we just like archery and the outdoors from a recreational standpoint, or it's for hunting. I've got friends that love bow fishing, right? I've never bow fished, but we're all here for one reason. It's because we enjoy it, right? So
Right.
it's a bunch of great people.
So what do you do at PSC then? I know you're working there internally at the
Yeah.
factory, but
So currently, the focus is in my current role is customer service. I'm the customer service manager. I deal with some of the national accounts as well. Um, Over the last almost 2 years, I've played a couple different roles, but PSE is a relatively small company. It's been around for 50 years, right? I mean, everybody
right.
everybody knows of PSE or has owned a PSE, and it's Pete. Pete has gotten this industry to where it is, right? There's some major players that had a major role in getting us where we are today, and Pete was one of those individuals. And it's fun. I mean, I keep saying that I enjoy it. It's fun, right? It's hard to put it into words, but customer service is my current role, right? And we get we get plenty of interest there. And one of our big successes right now is our carbon bows. You know, our carbon bows are still made in the United States. They're all hand laid. It's it's a pretty intricate process, and it's something that it draws people's attention to it. And then when you're able to really have a conversation with them and educate them about the process, there's a lot of time that goes into that. And like every person, each one of the bows has its own personality because it was built by a person top to bottom, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah. Now, are they still doing like the X weave and those type of arrows, or have they moved to something a little different? Because I know in 2001, when I was a dealer, then they come out with in probably three or in 2003 the X weave, and those are tough arrows and really good arrows. A story I told this on the last podcast, but one night I was shooting my Muzzy broadheads, getting ready for hunting season at my store. I have a broadhead target shooting because I don't shoot regular backstop. And I probably shouldn't have been shooting that late after working all day long. And I missed. And I put that Muzzy broadhead in a concrete block.
Mm-hmm.
The Muzzy broadhead stuck into the block. This is at 70 pounds at 20 yards. That carbon arrow, that PSE carbon arrow, Comp Pro,
Mm-hmm.
it cracked the insert in half. It broke the shaft, it cracked the shaft down about an inch and a half, and that was all the damage done to the arrow.
Yeah.
After hitting a concrete block wall.
Yeah.
And the Muzzy stood up to it because I still have that Muzzy. I couldn't tell you which one it is because it's mixed in amongst my other broadheads. It
Yeah.
didn't even leave a mark on the broadhead.
Yeah. That's funny. To answer your question. No, the carbon arrows is something that we're not currently in. We're not in that category. PSE is really in a transitional time period where we're focusing more on what we do best and where we want to be as a company. The times have changed. I know that that's not always what people want to hear. Um, I feel the best way I can say is it's a comparison like the Sears catalog, you know, and we can't be everything to everybody, right?
Right.
We want to be, everybody wants to be. I mean, we want to be accommodating and we want to stand behind our dealers and our product. I mean, that's what sets you apart from others. And you know, that's my mindset, right? Like that's Caleb Wesaw's mindset as a customer service manager. Like how can I solve the problem or you leave in a better position than you came to me in, right? Like that's what it's all about. And I really feel the team that I have, we really try to bend over backwards. I know that's a matter of opinion, but there is a lot of thought that goes into each situation, because I really try to put ourselves in the position of the consumer, and not everybody can afford to get a new bow every single year. And everybody looks forward to 3 or 4 months or whatever that time frame is that you get to utilize that equipment each year. So that's on us to make sure that they're able to do that. So again, we really do evaluate each situation and we try to make sure that we're standing behind our consumer from an informational standpoint, but also a product standpoint.
Yeah, I know my hunting bow is a 2001 and my target bow is a 2003
Yeah.
PSE.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, that's
no reason to change.
yeah.
Um, I do have a bear um, that in 2015 or 16, when I was looking at Cabela's, they had what we did is our shop there in La Vista. There was
Mm-hmm.
between John and I, we had a lot of experience. They would send in those great big 4-foot cube containers of returned bows and then send them to our shop. And we'd go through them, and like you might get 5 bows, the same exact bow with different problems. We'd pull off, we'd make new ones out of them, and then put them on our used rack and sell them. And we took the risers and cut them down to put sights on them so people could hold up and look at the sights, because there was no value in the bow anymore because there was enough wrong with it. It cost more to fix it, and that made a good thing because there were a lot of the little cheap starter bows. They're only worth maybe new $150. And used it might be worth $100, but then it's going to cost us more than that to fix them up. And so that made much more useful for them. And one of the bows I got was a Bear. It was a $900 bow. It was in the snow camo. And there was a string problem. The string stop was messed up. It wasn't bolted in. There was something else wrong with it. And this is a $900 bow. $900 bow I got for like $150 or something like that. And I fixed it all up, ready to put a sight and rest on it. But it sits in my gun safe, and that's as far as I took it. Never bothered setting it up because I don't need it.
No, that's great. Like I said earlier, I think it's great. You've got a couple bows that have withstood the test of time, and you can still enjoy them. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And, that's just the thing. I don't change bows a lot. I know at one time PSE bought Browning Archery.
Yep.
Do they still own Browning Archery?
So obviously it was, and forgive me, I'm not overly knowledgeable about that purchase, right? So I believe at that time they purchased Browning Archery only, right? And there was some type of agreement there, right? Licensing or whatnot. And I believe once AR Archery came on, that was around for, I want to say 3 or 4 years, and it would have been in that like 2006 time frame. And they had,
AR come on about 2003, I think it was, or late 2 or 3, because it was still there when I had my store.
Okay. Yep. So, during that time period, they had all 3 of the companies, right? They had PSE, Browning, and AR. And they were separate entities. PSE, they had their engineers and they were doing their own product line. And AR had their engineers and they were doing their product line. And I believe shortly after AR kind of went away, I believe Browning was shortly after there, or around that same time period. But again, don't hold me to that. I'm not as knowledgeable with the past dealings, there. But I remember selling the Browning bows. They had a great kids bow at the time, and I want to say it was called the Micro Midas. And we didn't have the highly adjustable cams and all the adjustment in the limbs. So at that time period, I believe you could get 20 to 30 pounds. And then once you outgrew those, you sent in like $50 or something, and you got the next set of limbs. And maybe I'm confusing that with another company, but they had a great youth bow at that time. And I have one, and it's in a storage unit back home in Michigan. But I mean, for that time, it was very, very adjustable. Very adjustable.
Where a lot of bows then was, you got 10 pounds of draw length. If you got a 50,
Correct.
50 to 60, 60 to 70, and that's all you had. And to go beyond that, now you're playing with strings and cable lengths to get you down to there. And I've done that a few times where, the 60 pound, they couldn't pull 60. We had to get them down to 40 and stuff like that. It's 60 and down to 50, but they had to get them down to 35. And the way to do that is strings and cable links and make new ones and making your own. That way you could play around. Okay, we got it. And I remember one bow that Browning come out with the counter rotating cams.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that one?
I don't know that. I don't remember.
It was kind of unique, and I wanted to shoot it, set it up for me, but I could not get it to fit me.
Huh.
I just thought it was so cool. I wanted to shoot it, and it
absolutely.
No matter what I did, it would not fit me. And that's we talk about on this podcast multiple times. It's like, if it doesn't fit you, it's not your bow.
Yeah. Yep.
No.
And the thing is that was very, very true back then. There was limited. You could tiller tune. You could play with your knock height, which I understand tiller tuning plays with your knock height, right? But you could really do only a limited number of things because you were
Yes.
still in that steel cable era. And if it didn't shoot, you got rid of it and you tried a different bow. It may be the same model bow, even, but you didn't shoot that one. And now our understanding of product and how user friendly it is, you're 100% right. The bow still may not be for you, but the margin of error or margin of opportunity to get that bow to fit you is so much larger now. Right. If
Right.
you can get with somebody that understands how to manipulate those systems, and when I mean manipulate, I don't mean take it out of spec and do the voodoo archery magic on it. If they just understand it, there is so much that can be done, and that's where you can see a large amount of progress. Is when you get something set up for you, you can you're not fighting some of those inevitable, hey, why does this do this, why does that do that? If somebody can answer those questions and put some knowledge behind that, it can become fun really, really quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
can. Now, is PSE still making their own strings, buy their own strings, or not?
So we do still produce some. That has changed over the last couple of years as well, but everything is still in the United States. We've had partnerships in the past. ABB was a strong partner, great company. I'm not so sure if they ever had Winner's Choice, but Winner's Choice was a string that was widely successful and very popular in the early 2000s, mid
Yes.
2000s. So yep, everything is still done here in the States, as far as our strings and cables, but what we do in house is very limited.
Yeah, because I know when I had my store, of course, you got to remember this is uh, 20, 20 plus years ago, 23 years ago when I started my store. So 22,
Yeah.
23 years ago, uh, the black and white strings that come on most of those bows,
Oh, yeah.
even the higher end bows, unless it's the winner's choice, were terrible strings.
Yeah.
Um, and I had my shooters when the new bow would come in. It's like, okay, make a new string. I'm not
Yep.
even. They won't even take the first shot. First thing we do is
Yep.
we're taking off those original strings, throwing them away because they never stopped moving.
Yeah.
And
That I can tell you that that's something that we don't have an issue with. We are actually very happy and I'll say proud of the strings that we put on our bows from the factory. You know, some of the first ones that we got, I ran them through the hunting season out here in Arizona. Ran them through a tack season, and you really don't have the break-in period that strings are typically accustomed to, especially from the factory. So we really feel like you get a lot of value out of the factory string and cable sets. And what I tell people is, even if you've got your heart set on a new custom set of string and cables, 100% support that, right? Like you should do that,
right,
because the crap to me, and I won't go down the string building aspect of this. I don't build strings. I know the process, but I will say there are so many good companies out there. They're all using the same materials, but their attention to detail and their craftsmanship is what really defines each one of them, right? And
right.
if you grab that new bow and you're going to run the strings and cables that are on it, I tell people at least put 100 to 200 shots in there. Get you an extra peep, tie everything in, get it where you have 100% confidence. You have the shop install a new set of strings and cables, that custom set that you've really wanted. Have them put the paper clips on the factory set of strings and cables, fold them up, and put them in that custom bag, and throw it in your case. And now you have a backup set. Now you have an insurance policy. No matter where you go, if you're just hunting on the back 40 and it's the middle of November and you accidentally have a broadhead, or your string gets frayed up because it caught your tree stand step on the way down, you're not lost, right? You have this backup plan where it's like, super upset that this happened. This is not what I planned on. A little bit more effort has to go into this, but it's not starting over from scratch. And that's a huge relief. So
Yeah, that's one really good point. Have a backup string and cables.
yep.
Whether you have two or three strings and cables on it,
Sure.
have a backup set, and you can go as far as, okay, here's my set. This
Yep.
is perfectly set. Take your new set, put them on, get them all set up. So now it's running perfect. And I'll take that backup set that you had been using. It's good. Everything's perfect. And put it in a bag. Like I said, put clips on it. So you don't add twists or take twists away, because that changes everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially as far as the peep lines and everything else can be changed. So make sure you get them, put that in your bow case. And now if you need something you need a bow press for, well, you have two options. One, there's portable bow presses, but with the new bows, you're not using a portable bow press on it, because especially the parallel and beyond parallel limbs, even the brackets for split limbs just won't compress them. Like the
Sure.
new bows, I can't press a new
Yeah.
bow.
Yep.
I have an old Apple press, and that works on the
yeah.
old bows, and it
Yep.
won't work on a new one. I have to have like what is it, the Easy Press, or like that's the
Yep.
name
Or
of
a
it.
spike press. Yep.
Yeah, you got to have something like that that'll do them. And I had one guy. It's like, okay, I can make a new string, so I tried using. It's going to try and set up my portable bow press, because I knew my bow press wouldn't do it, and it was kind of curved over, so the limbs were curved in. It's like I can't safely compress it.
Yeah.
You get string off, I can replicate it in the size you want, but so if you can't, you got to have the right equipment, and I don't do enough to justify the expense of a different bow press.
Sure. No, absolutely. And I mean, like you just said, it's hard to justify. I mean, there are some very viable options, but to spend $400 or $500 even on a home bow press, it's a lot to ask. I can understand if you're only going to use it once or twice a year, you're better off just finding a good shop that you've got all the confidence in, that they take care of your needs, and going in there. Your money ahead, and really anywhere you go, I say anywhere, that's not fair. A lot of places that you go now, there's usually a shop nearby, usually an hour. There's something, a
Yeah,
Sportsman's or a Cabela's or a Bass Pro or a Shields. There's just so many different locations now where if you had to get something installed in a pinch, you could make it happen. And really having that set already pre-stretched in, everything tuned in for you is just going to make it that much easier, because you're walking into an unknown. You don't know what the competence level is there, and everything else. And that's not a diss towards anybody. It's just you've got a hunt going on, and you're like, I want to finish this. I've been waiting 12 months, right? It's go time, and I need this thing operational. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, and
that's
then
the
all you have
that's
to do is put it on.
yeah,
If
exactly.
they didn't
Yep,
know
it's
anything.
exactly. It's all right there. As long as they know how to operate that press in a safe manner and your bow doesn't come out of it, you're 99% good to go.
I
Yep.
remember one guy come in. He bought a string, took it one of those sporting goods places that um, probably didn't know anything about it. He put the string on. He comes into me, and I see string's on wrong. It's not installed right. He's like, here's what might cost to put it on right. He's like, well, they did it free. He's like, well, take it back to them. They didn't do it right. Yeah, he
Yeah.
can pay me to do it right. He took it back to him. Like, it's still wrong. So you either pay me or go back until they finally get it right, because nothing I can do until it's on right.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's the benefit of having a shop that you trust and you do business with. And there's so many, again, I guess the topic of this conversation has been, there's so many resources, there's so many opportunities, but supporting your local dealer is huge. It really is huge. You know, they'll help you out in binds like that where, hey, this isn't correct. Um, Dealers really step up to the plate because it's their business. You know,
Right.
that's their business is to take care of consumers, and manufacturers supply the consumers. And they're the first line of interaction with a customer in most cases, you know, and having that relationship with them, they're not speaking for any of them, but in my experience, they'll step up and make sure you're taken care of, and they'll work the rest out with the manufacturer. And that's huge. You know, it's something that shouldn't be taken advantage of, and it should be recognized and appreciated.
I know I had a bow we ordered in for a guy. It come in, I don't know, like 29 inch, and he'd be 27, and not getting the stuff in, not getting stuff in. Finally, they said, I call him up and this PSE, I call him up. I says, okay, what are we waiting for? Well, we're waiting for the strings. Well, send me the cam. Just tell me what length the strings and cables need to be.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I got the cam in because I'm going to make the strings. And it was
right.
one of those bows. It was like 2002, I think it was. It was kind of a
Mm-hmm.
maroon colored target bow.
Okay.
And so I used BCY's 8125 is what I use for my strings.
Sure.
And I used silver and mountainberry color,
Mm-hmm.
which was kind of close to his string. So I made a new string for it. And then, of course, I made new cable. The cable was the same, but it looked terrible with this black cable and this cool looking string. So I remade the cables and everything and put it in there and sent it back and wrote up the work order, warranty repair. And he had some guys take it back. He was in Israel.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
he was over in
Yeah.
Israel, bought it, and
Yeah.
he sent it back. He had some people come over, and he took it back with him. And in there was the old cam and the old strings, and the paperwork said warranty repair, and that's what it was. He took it back, and you know,
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great.
but
Yeah.
that was a cool string combination with that bow. That worked really cool.
Yeah. There's no, the sky's the limit on string colors nowadays. You can, you can do so much more with customizing your bow. And I know that was a fad for a while. The limb savers, the string leeches, everything was color coordinated. And nowadays I just typically run a natural and call it good. I guess I'm lame. It's simple.
Well, and I had,
But
I had people come in, archers come in, and it's like, well, you have two colors if you want. What color you want? Black. No,
yeah,
I'm not doing black.
yeah,
Pick two colors you like. Now, if the
yeah,
whole bow was black and all accessories are black, then it makes sense to have
sure.
a black string on it. Doesn't make sense
Right.
to have anything else. But you
Yeah,
got a camo bow. Why you're running black strings? Just run, whatever color you want to have on it.
sure.
Pick your two favorite colors.
Yep.
As long as it's not a fluorescent color, the deer aren't
Yeah.
going to see it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I've ran some goofy colors, especially when I was younger. And like I said, now I'm just getting older and lame, I guess. If I do anything, I'll change the serving color on the end loops and stuff like that up, but it's usually natural.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yep.
I just thought of a story when I was down at dealer school in 2001. There was this guy there that shot on what he called the Guerrilla Squad.
Oh yeah,
The
the
Guerrilla
Gorilla Squad.
Squad,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, he was shooting 90 pounds.
Sure. Yep.
And I was talking to him, and he says, yeah, he was out there practicing one day and shooting. At 90 pounds, when you go off, that hand comes flying back, with
Mm-hmm.
a vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot. When that goes off, it's coming back with some force. And he said this guy was watching, looking around. All of a sudden, he got right behind him, was watching, come back, and his hand smacked him in the face.
Mm.
He got a little too close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Kind of
90.
surprised him, but
Yeah, I bet it did. He probably didn't like the surprise either.
kind of nice that, it's kind of interesting to see the explosion that goes off when that 90-pound bow goes off, using that proper form, and that hand just goes flying forward. The backhand comes back and a hand flies back, and it's just a massive explosion. It looks like going off when those bow go off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, the Gorilla Squad. I don't know when that stopped, but I hear I meet people here in Arizona that were on that for a long period of time, some a short period of time, but I think that was a lot of R&D and trial and error prototyping. I believe they had a big role in that. I mean, from the little bits that I gather, right, the information that's been passed along to me, and it in Arizona we really have a strong archery community as far as like high level shooters. There's actually some really great shots here, and the hunting. You know, growing up in the East or the Midwest, hunting there is much different. You know, it's you're sitting in a blind or you're sitting in a tree stand, and there's not as much spot and stalk. And out here, glassing is a whole nother ball game. Um, the elements are just different. I mean, it's really pretty impressive. We've got a really strong hunting community too. I mean, there are some guys out here, and I don't have the pleasure of knowing them really, but I hear a lot of the same names over and over. We have some really great hunters in this state too, very accomplished. So I guess the benefit of being in the West is there's a lot of public land, BLM land, that we've got availability of. So
Yeah, we have a lot of public land that we can hunt here in Nebraska. You know, lots of it. You know, there's plenty of land that you can find to go hunt. Now, in some areas, it might be pretty busy with hunters because if you get close to Omaha or Lincoln, there's just high number of archers, looking for those spots. But there's a lot of private farms that you get to hunt. I've got 2 farms that I hunt. Not the best property for deer, but there's deer on them, and
sure. Yeah.
you can go hunt them, and it's kind of a challenge when the only trees really is along the fence rows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, where you're located, do you have whitetail and mule deer, or are
No,
you?
just whitetail. You have to go a little bit
Okay.
further west in Nebraska to get to the mule deer.
Okay.
Probably 150 miles west of here, where you start
Okay.
getting into mule deer, and then get
Sure.
kind of a mix, and then pretty much all just mule deer.
Okay.
Because we just don't have the open areas that the mule deer hang out.
Right. Yep. I've only driven through Nebraska. I've not spent a large amount of time there at all. Beautiful. It's like you said, wide open for the most part. The portions that I've seen. But
You probably seen it off Interstate 80, and
yep.
a lot of open there. And
Yeah, that's exactly it.
well, you
So
kind of drew past me, when you went through Omaha and then Lincoln, and if you take Highway 77, which goes to the east end of the Lincoln, off there. So I'm in between Omaha and Lincoln, and
okay.
those that know where Fremont is,
Okay.
you take the 3 spots, and you right in the center is where I'm at.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it takes me the same time to get to Omaha or it does Lincoln. It doesn't matter.
Gotcha. Centrally located,
Yeah,
whether you
yeah.
like it or not.
So I'm 35 to 45 minutes from either one, depending on what part of the town we're going to. And
Yeah. That's not bad. It takes me 35, 40 minutes to get to Costco, and it's 10 miles away. So,
oh,
it's just on how you want to spend your time. Country living's a lot different than city living.
yeah, yeah. Well, most of your driving is getting to the city. Once you get to the city, it's like, oh, forget it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's
Although where I'm working is right off the interstate, so well, once the construction's done, then it don't take too long. But if you go there early enough, it's not too bad. But
yeah. So is that your occupation now? Are you in construction?
no, I'm an engineer, electrical engineer,
Oh, oh wow.
and
Okay.
and
Mhm.
right now I'm working for a company, and in a controls engineering role. And but right now I haven't worked the last few weeks because I was in an accident, and it kind of
Oh,
set me back. And here last April I had a triple bypass, and then I'd go back in June and put some plates in, and just about completely recovered from that. And the guy hit me from behind so hard I was driving. I got a dash cam, so I know the numbers. I was getting ready, just starting my turn at 29 mile an hour. He hit me so hard, he caved the back end of my Buick Century, the bumper into the rear tire, locked it up, spun me around. I'm going backwards at 40 mile an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm not recovered from that. So, um, yeah, I can't shoot my bow right now.
Oh, okay. Well,
I could probably do a
resilient.
crossbow, but that'd be about it.
Yeah. Well, if it gets you in the woods, then
Yeah.
sounds like that's what you got to do. But
Well, and
hopefully,
I consider archery stick with a string flinging another stick,
yep,
and
good
that's
definition.
crossbow.
Yeah, yep.
Hey,
Well,
prove me wrong.
I can't prove you wrong there, but if it gets you, it gives you some enjoyment, then I'm all for it. Um, but I agree. Yep, archery is stick and string. I wish we. It'd be nice if we kept it that way, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, well,
I just
hopefully, wish you a quick recovery on that.
yeah.
That's not a great experience. So
No, no, it's not. So I'm kind of looking forward to being able to get back to work, but there's, still some things going on that kind of
sure,
keep me from doing that because where I'm at, I have access to some critical systems
gotcha.
and I just, if I'm not 100%, I hate doing it because then I can't, well, one, if I can't put 100% into my work, I have
Yep.
trouble not putting 100% in.
Yeah.
So, that's, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
When
Absolutely.
when you lose focus, it's like, well, okay, it's time to go home.
Yep. No. No. I can appreciate that. So for a while, I actually worked in a nuclear facility, two of them, and that's I understand where you're going with some of that. There's
Yeah,
expectations in some environments are much higher. It doesn't mean others aren't important, but it just means attention to detail is uh, key in some roles.
right.
So, yep.
What I'm doing is mission critical, but I have access to mission critical systems.
Yeah,
And if I can't pay attention, I just rather not get on them. It's just one of
sure.
those things that,
Yep,
just like shooting your bow, if you're not completely focused on what you're doing, you can get hurt,
absolutely. Yep.
you know?
Well, and even even outside of a safety factor, if you're not paying attention, and like you had stated earlier, a lot of it's mental once you get to a certain point, and if you're not paying attention, it's hard to hold yourself accountable, right? You're the only one that
Right.
can control that thought process and that mental aspect, and um, I think that's one of the things that I've come to realize with compounds that started to pique my interest with recurves or a traditional like um, longbow. Maybe I think I'd probably go with more of a recurve, and it's not that I wouldn't hold myself to a certain standard, but it would really be starting over for me because I've never my experience with that is almost non-existent. So it'd be a fresh start to archery again, and I think there's been times where I've kind of stepped away because I've taken it too serious. And well, why are you doing that? You created that. There's no reason for it. So I've kind of looked at the traditional side of archery where, hey, is that something that I could get into, learn more, have more appreciation and enjoyment for it? Because like I said, I've never done it. And I think it'd be a lot of fun to be at 20 yards and no stabilizers, no peep, no sight. You're accomplishing a tall order of business as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure for people that are avid traditionalists, they're like, it's not that big of a deal, right? Well, to me it would be, and I'm sure those individuals have put a lot of time and effort into to making it to that level.
Yeah. I know when I get a recurve in my hand, my whole mental attitude changes completely than seeing a compound. A
Yeah,
compound, okay, I'm drawing back. I'm looking for anchor point. I'm looking for peep. I'm looking for all this stuff. Go through all this process with a recurve. I don't look for peeps. I don't look for the
right.
tip of the arrow. I don't do that. I draw back, focusing 100% on where I want the arrow to go.
Yeah,
That's my focus. I draw back and I'm only focusing on that. I go through my shot process. and that's where I go. And then, eventually you'll learn where your body needs to be to hit that spot. And then you go a different distance and then you work on that. And um,
Yep.
I cannot shoot a compound instinctively.
Right.
It's just like I don't shoot my handguns like I do my rifles. I don't shoot rifles like I do my shotguns. I don't
Right.
shoot my compound like I do my recurve.
Yep.
They're all different. And
Sure.
um, you know, I'm kind of like to get back to that because I think I could probably shoot some of them before I could my compound because I don't have
Yeah.
to pull quite so much. But um, my recurve is I think it's a 40-pound PSE,
Okay.
and then I have a left-handed one because I shoot right-handed. Then when I had
Mm.
my store, it was supposed to be right-handed. They in the box they actually put a left-handed bow, and I just never sent it back. Um,
Okay.
there's no string for it because I ended up using the string on something else, so I
Sure.
didn't make a string. But I can work up the 25-pound once I get to that shooting left-handed. Yeah,
Yep.
because the process is the same.
Yeah.
It's just switching other sides, and I've done both. And lots of times when I'm teaching a right-hander, I'm actually showing them left-handed. Yeah, and
Yep.
I'm teaching right-handed, left-handed, I'm showing them right-handed.
Yep.
That's just you do that after become an instructor for a while. You just learn to show it either way, and
Yeah.
I make a string for it, and then practice on that left-handed. And right now, I've got some elastic bands that I'm going through right-handed, drawing through the whole process. Then I
Hmm.
do left-handed and go through the process to build those muscles, and I'm starting to get them built back up. So pretty soon here, I might get my recurve out and see
Yeah.
if I can pull that one out once I get make a string for it.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like a great start. A great place to start. So maybe I'll join in on that adventure. It's been something for the last probably year and a half I've really thought quite heavily about. I feel like it's just getting more back to the basics and uh, simplifying things, even though it's complex. Removing some of the extra accessories, and like I said,
Yeah.
getting back to the roots.
Well, and then what I can do is like we get ready to do that. Hey, let's get on a Zoom call, not a podcast, just or we could do
Yeah,
it a podcast too, but get on a
yeah,
Zoom call and we'll go through those things and it'd make an
yeah,
interesting, instructional podcast as well. So we
yeah.
can get on and do that. If you want to do that, hey, let's get back together and we'll go through and we can show them what we're doing and our
Sure.
struggles going through and make a bunch of videos doing that as well as we're doing it
Yeah.
and you're just kind of being fun and that's the thing about the podcast. It's like I call it Arch Talk 101 because it's teaching. What's the first thing you need to learn? And somebody learning a new skill, hey, let's get on and we'll talk about it. If we want to record it, for instructional stuff, then hey, that's good too. So, I'm
Absolutely.
open to just about anything arch related for a podcast.
Yeah. No, I'm all ears on that. I like I said, I had some great mentors and people that drug me along and taught me what I know, and um, definitely not the end all be all by any means, but I try to give back, and I definitely enjoy sharing when people want to learn. It's fun. When I got with my wife, we've been together for 15 years, and she she grew up outdoors as well, but she didn't really have a lot of experience with archery. And if I couldn't shoot archery, from today forward, I think I would get enough satisfaction and enjoyment out of teaching and helping her and our kids. It's definitely I'd have a desire and the selfishness to say, man, I wish I was doing that, but it's super rewarding, to see how well she shoots. And it's funny, we lived in Arkansas for a little while, and I had her into a shop, and we were trying out a couple different bows at the time. I didn't work in the industry, and some of the techs there were asking us, "Wow, how long have you been shooting? Your form is really good." That was a proud moment for me, right? That's my work. The
Yeah.
ego came out, and it's like, yeah, I did that. Um, but it's nice to see your information transition to another, and them get the same amount of enjoyment out of it as you are.
Right.
To me, that's super rewarding.
Yeah. Sometimes, it's like you could shoot that great big monster buck, but watching one of your kids shoot that same deer means
Yep.
more to you than shooting it yourself.
Oh,
Uh,
I I got to live that firsthand last year. Our daughter drew a rifle tag here in Arizona, and we're relatively, like I said, relatively new, especially to Tucson area. And we had a couple guys at work, very knowledgeable. They pointed us in the right direction, and our daughter, she harvested a buck on the second day, and it was a Coues deer, so it's a whitetail, a lot smaller than a Midwest whitetail, but that was something. I definitely will never forget that. We were on top of for a Midwesterner's perspective, it was a mountain, but it was just an oversized hill, and the whole family was up there. Our son and my wife and our daughter, and what a cool experience to be able to have all four of us there to watch her do that. It was neat. I mean, it was neat. It's indescribable because you just seen a transition of passion and interest at that moment.
yeah. How old was she then?
Yeah, so she was 11. She was
11.
11. She'll be 12 here in another couple weeks, and yeah, what a cool opportunity. Watching her jump up and getting emotional, and it was neat. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't replicate the first time, and it was something. It was really cool. It was cool.
Yeah, that definitely was when you get out there with your kids and
Oh,
and you know they whether they kill a deer or not,
sure.
isn't
Nope.
the big deal. It's just getting out there and some of the
Yep.
things that go on, when you seeing them, they're out there. And one time I had my youngest son with me, and I put him in a tree stand, right next to me. So we used the same ladder stand. He hopped over, and
Yep.
then we had him all strapped in, and I was strapped in, and I gave him the deer call. And this is now, if they're coming in, don't have to make any sound, but other than that, you call how you want to call. Make the
Yeah.
call. Yeah,
Yeah.
who says I can call better than him? It's like they're one thing for a deer, if they hear it, they're either going to come to it, ignore it, or run away.
Yep. Simple as that. Yep.
So it doesn't matter what sound you make. I had one
No.
time I had a couple of does coming in, and I didn't know they were coming in, but I heard this sound coming, ah, sound like that. And where I was at, it's public property and there's
Okay.
duck hunters hunt there. I just
Oh,
thought it
sure.
was the duck hunter that was bored making sounds on his call.
Yep.
I've been there, done that, like bored, no ducks coming in. I just start making noises just because can't hurt anything because there's no ducks
Yep.
around. And then all of a sudden I say, okay, it's deer. So I get on my grunt, just a terrible grunt. It was there was nothing close to a grunt out of it.
Yeah.
But the doe that was bleating didn't run, but the big doe come running, and I'm looking at her through my tree stand. She knew exactly where that sound come from,
Oh
and she
yeah.
run right to it. And I'm looking through the tree stand at her, and she just kind of walks. And next thing you know, this doe's bleeding, walking away, and then she ended up walking away with it. And
Yeah.
and back then in Nebraska, you had two tags.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's all you could get, whether
Okay.
it's rifle, muzzleloader, archery. If you had a rifle, you could only get one archery. If you just did archery, you get two archery tags, and
Okay.
those were always either sex. And I'd already filled one of them,
Yep.
and then I hunt buck only until like December,
Yep.
and then I'll go ahead and fill it. Well, it
Sure.
wasn't December yet because it was during the rut, which is part of November yet.
Yep.
And so I wasn't going to shoot him because I didn't want to end my hunt yet.
Right.
So I just let him walk and just kind of enjoyed it and let him walk off. And it's like, oh, okay. I actually heard a doe that was calling for a buck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I sound like a really drunk buck, and it come running right in.
Yep. Curiosity. Yeah.
Yeah.
It.
And Chris, the guy I was hunting with, he said, "Why didn't you shoot one?" Well, it wasn't a buck because
Yep.
my stand at that time, I didn't want to end my hunt. I wanted to hunt
Right.
longer, so I wasn't going to fill my second and only tag.
that's how I feel about turkey hunting. I love turkey hunting, and in Michigan, you only got one tag in the fall and in the spring. So you got two tags a year, but one for fall, one for spring. And there had been times where the first morning out, you harvest something, and it's like, doggone it, maybe I should have passed that. That way I can get more enjoyment out of it. And then there
Yeah.
were times where you'd chase those things for 30 days, and it was, is it ever going to end? Am I ever going to be able to seal the deal? And but that's the love, hate, and the enjoyment of hunting.
Yeah. Yeah. You're on a 5-day hunt, and the first day you see this, okay, animal,
Yeah,
and you pass on it. It's like, yeah, that's not quite big enough. That same one comes by at the end of the hunt. Oh, yeah, that's a monster.
100%. Yep,
But you just passed
100%.
on the same one 5 days earlier.
Yeah. Well, perspective. Yeah, everything's situational, but that's good.
What's
That's good.
been your most challenging hunt you've been on?
So I always hunted in Michigan. We were very blessed to have opportunities to large tracts of land, which really is not heard of too often in Michigan. Everybody owns 20 acres, 40 acres, and around 2017, we decided to start hunting out of state. So we picked Missouri. Me and a guy that I barely knew. Uh, we he's my hunting buddy now. I mean, if we go out of state, we go together and get along really well. Goals, initiatives, work ethic are all the same. And I'll tell you, it's not just one hunt, but it was about 3 years there where we really put in a lot of time and energy to understand this property. And it was all public land. And we would do hanging hunts, which, that's the trend now and it's very popular. But we didn't have the time or the knowledge to be able to hang a bunch of tree stands. So we just had lightweight equipment, and we'd go in and find a good spot and hang it and rip it out on our way out. And finally, in 2022, I believe, we both were successful. So it wasn't just, it wasn't just 1 year or one hunt. We had found good buck sign. We had found good bucks. We'd seen them, had close opportunities, but we just didn't seal the deal until 3 years in. And that was probably the most challenging, right? A lot of things are ego related. You can hunt the same pieces of property, and I'm the greatest hunter God's ever put on earth. And next thing you know, you get out of your element, and it's like, oh wow, it's humbling. You got to
Right.
just, okay, we're going back to square one. We're gonna take what we learned over the last decade, and we're gonna try to apply it to this piece. And there's so many uncontrollables when you're on public land, and I like the challenge. I mean, it's always nice. Don't get me wrong. It's always nice to hunt private land where it's a sure thing, right? And you get to more or less say, hey, I'm after this deer, and this is my expectation. I'll tell you, that's what I walked in with as far as goals. And I learned really quick that you're going to take what public land will give you, and you may wait longer. And that's okay if
Yeah.
you're willing to do it. So,
Well, in public lands, you have people walking through.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
If you have, yeah, if it's public land, especially if there's camping there as well, you may have somebody just walking through the forest, mushroom hunting or something,
Yep.
and you have to deal with that. And I know one
Yep.
time I wanted to move my stand further north because they were getting down to me too late at night. And I knew which
Yep.
way they was coming through. So I moved my stand. I said, I want to be in my stand at 4 o'clock. And, that way, quarter to 5, 5 o'clock, they'll be coming through. So I get in my tree stand. I got it all set up. I'm climbing up my tree stand, and I just sit down waiting. And here comes this deer trotting through.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids were up further north, walking around, kicked it up early. And
Yeah.
so I'm going through, and I make my shot at it because it's moving. I'll say, do I wait or follow through? And I made the
Sure.
shot, and it ended up being, yeah, a bad shot.
Right. Yep.
We've all done that. If you've shot
Oh,
more than
yeah.
one arrow, you've probably made a bad shot. So we ended up coming back the next night, and we'd had snow that night.
Okay.
So now we have no track, we have no blood trail, we have a lump with snow on it, is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And I found it about 30
Well,
yards from here. We got it and we chased it. Well, we got up and it run off, and we just stopped, walked straight out so we knew we'd come back in. And in about 30 yards from there, we found the lump, pulled the snow off, the lower legs were froze, the rest of the body was still warm. So we
wow.
cleaned it and got out with it.
Yeah.
And here in Nebraska, like in Michigan, when in the wintertime, it gets down to easily below freezing.
Yes.
And you're going to get snow, you're going to have to be below freezing anyway.
Yep.
And we had, 2, 3 inches of snow. And, we recovered it because we did not chase it.
Correct.
And when it got up, we walked where it was laying down. Sure enough, a little pool of blood. So we knew that was the deer and recovered it. Took a while, but that's what you got to do. They're going to lay down and eventually bleed out. But
Yep.
it's, that's the thing we got to learn is when you shoot them with an arrow, it takes time.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, life lessons and being young. That was a lesson that I had to learn is patience. And sometimes even a good shot. I understand everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people say, well, if you put it where it's meant to go, they expire quickly. I've seen differently. I'm not going to argue that fact, right? But it's just patience. I mean, if it's
Right.
if it's down now, it'll be down in 30 minutes. It'll be down in 45 minutes. So the more time that you're able to resist that urge of getting down and chasing after it, I have found you're better off. And it's my opinion. I know early on I got overly excited and I lost deer that I shouldn't have lost. They were they the greatest shots? No, they weren't. Right? But was it a marginal hit? No, it wasn't. Problem is I got after it right away. And those deer, I think any animal that you're hunting, they have a desire to live. They've got, it's hard to quantify their resilience and their toughness. They can overcome some amazing things. I mean, with trail cameras now, everybody has seen pictures where, a deer has been hit just a little bit high, almost in the perfect spot, like I said, high, so that's not perfect, but in the lung area in that cavity, and they live. And you would have sworn that it was an amazing shot and everything.
Yeah.
That deer's dead. Guaranteed he's dead. Well, 2 weeks later, he shows up on the trail camera with a blood spot there or a wound that's healing over. They're so
Yeah.
tough. They're so tough.
Well, and if you bring a snack with you, lunch or something like that and something to drink, when you shoot one, the best thing you do is, unless you have another
Yeah.
tag,
Yeah.
you're basically done hunting until you recover it. So hang your bow up, grab your sandwich out, eat yourself a little snack and
Yeah.
get some drink and take your time and relax. And then, after half hour, 45 minutes, then, get down and find the first blood, and then mark that where you're at. Make sure you're not walking on your blood trail, walk beside
Correct.
it. And then, just slowly just kind of walk and, start marking your trail so that you can look back where it's at and forward. And, you know, if you lose a blood trail, you can see, okay, they're going this way. So it should be here. But sometimes I just take a right or left turn.
Yep.
Also just turn. So,
Yep.
the last one was and flag them somehow if you want. One
Yep.
thing you could do is you could take with you some of those little marker flags that you see all the time.
Yeah.
And then when you find a blood, stick one in the ground, stick one in the ground. And then when you get done recovered, just go pull them all back up.
Well, this may not be overly popular by somebody's opinion, but so my grandpa was the one that taught me how to track. And you go to the store and you get the cheapest one ply toilet paper that you can find, and that's how we would mark blood. Something that's going to dissolve quickly. You're not going to litter the earth, and it's going to be there for the next 20 years. And we'd take just a little bit and put it on a branch, right? And then you can look back and you can see exactly what direction they're coming from, and it's gone in a couple days. Unless you're in Arizona, because it doesn't rain here, then it's going to be there a while. But in an area that gets moisture, it usually dissipates pretty quick. But
that's an idea, because a lot of times I'll use that little marking tape, the flagging tape, the plastic stuff, and then it stays there for a long time.
Yeah,
but I like the idea of using that toilet paper, especially got that one ply that's really cheap.
Yeah.
You
just
can't
something that
use
you can
anything
visually
else.
see. Right. Yep.
Yeah, that is a good way of marking a trail, because up here we get the first rain, they're gone.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, and it don't hurt nothing.
No.
It's
if anything, it'll end up in a
biodegradable.
bird's. Yeah, exactly. If anything, it'll end up in a bird's nest. And they'll thank you for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea. Something that I have to keep in mind, and because all of us hunters, we always carry teepee with us.
That's it. I was gonna say it. It's dual purpose. You just got to use more sheets if you're not tracking.
Yeah. Yeah, my backpack always has the roll in it. Rolling it in plastic bag and everything, so that it it doesn't get all messed up in the backpack. But
sure. Yeah. No, maybe that'll be a good trick for somebody, but that's what he taught me a long time ago. So.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
Yeah.
So, do you have any hunts coming up planned, or?
Nothing this year. We, as a family, we kind of had a lot going on, like yourself. You described the incident that took place with you shortly. We've had some of those same things with our family, so we decided to postpone some of our plans this year. Initially, I had an Iowa hunt that I was anxiously looking forward to. The last 3 or 4 years, I really haven't done a lot of hunting. That's why I cracked the joke about you having a shop and not being able to hunt as much. So that's why you got out of it. I definitely don't do as much as I'd like. But so we postponed Iowa. That should be a 2026 hunt now. My wife did draw a early season bull elk tag in a couple very desirable units. She actually drew one in unit 1. I think it's 2B and 2C. Our units up here, to be honest, if I'm not looking at Onyx, I can't remember. But I know it's a unit 1. It's a good hunt. It's in the northern units. And that starts in mid-September. So, and that's an archery hunt. So we're really looking forward to that. We're going to dedicate all our time, energy, and resources to those 2 weeks. And luckily enough, we have a couple people that actually live in the area, but in those units. And she should have a very good chance at being successful. And that's going to be fun. That's going to be. I've never elk hunted. Our daughter was very envious that she got that elk tag. I actually thought when the draw results came out, I thought my daughter got it. And then I found out my wife did. So she was like, I'm happy for you, Mom, but I really wish I would have got that elk tag. Yeah. And so we're going to enjoy that one as a family as well. It'll be great for all of us. It'll be fun. But a lot of anticipation for that. So that's really the only thing on the books. I have one hunt that I'm currently discussing with my best friend growing up. We don't spend a lot of time together anymore. There's a pretty unique island hunt that we're talking about going on, and that would be at the end of October, and that's for whitetails. So that'll be we'll see if that happens. We both have the tag for it. It's just more logistics and timing of it. Is it going to work? So, but the elk hunt is the top priority and the main focus. We should know in probably 2 to 3 weeks who drew tags for deer season. So everything out here is application process. So we put in for rifle tags again this year. Archery is my passion, but I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to go hunt. I'll try to fill my tag in August because our season opens up usually around that mid-August time frame, like around the 18th or 20th, depending on the year. So I'll try to get it done then, and maybe the rifle tag will get burnt, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather shoot them with a bow.
Yeah. Now, is your archery seasons, are those draw, or you can just buy those over the counter?
So for residents, there are over the counter archery tags, but our seasons, from what I'm used to, our seasons are very broken up. You've got, I think, around 2, maybe 3 weeks for early archery, and then you go into a couple. I think there's a lull there, and then it goes into October, where there's rifle hunts, there's youth hunts, there's muzzleloader hunts, and then archery opens back up. Then there's some more hunts, so it's spread out over, well, basically August through December. There's some type of hunt going on, usually for deer. So, and it's not continuous. It's sparse, but for those months, there's usually a hunt going on. The specialty tags, if you wanted to go to a desirable unit, those are a draw. The application period just closed the beginning or end of this past month, so what, May. You had to have your tags in, I think, for June 3rd, I think was the deadline. So you can do, again, early archery for some desirable units in that application period, and then the rifle hunts, muzzleloader hunts, and so on so forth. But, so we'll see what happens. Everybody's anxiously waiting for that now.
Yeah, some states have all these different seasons and everything. Nebraska, archery, September 1 to December 31st.
That's what I'm used to. And it's all of the state. Here, there's, for the units, there's different hunts at different time periods. So you could have a hunt going on in unit 27, and I'm living in 28 or whatever, and I have to wait until next week so I can go hunt 34. It's all over the place. So you really have to do your due diligence. You have to be knowledgeable. It and some guys know it like the back of their hand. And I'll tell you, good on them, because to me it's a lot to learn coming from a simplistic system like you just described.
Yeah.
October 1st through December 31st.
Yeah.
So
And muzzleloader is the month of December.
correct.
And
The same for
archery
Michigan.
is 9 days, I think, starting the second weekend in November. And there's a
Okay.
late season. The first 9 days of January is a late rifle season. Now,
Okay.
archery, we can hunt during the rifle season, but we got to wear orange just like the rifle hunters do.
Yep.
But
Yep.
some areas don't allow you to use anything but archery. Like the
Okay.
one public place, archery and shotguns, all allowed there.
Yep.
And I don't know if anybody's ever shotgun for deer or not using the slug, but so it's pretty much your pheasant and bird and hunters, and then archery, and so you don't have to worry about other rifle hunters out there, but you still during that time you have to wear the orange.
Yep. No, and that where I grew up, you could only use a shotgun for the majority of the time because we lived below the rifle. There was like a rifle line, and it was like basically mid Michigan, and lower was only shotgun. And then muzzleloaders, became more popular because you could increase your distance, and they were, fairly accurate, especially as that industry has evolved. And now you can use a straight wall cartridge. So like I think they're 450 Bushmaster is like a popular cartridge. I never really got into that, but the ballistics on that stuff, I guess, is much better than a shotgun. So I don't know what the Michigan boys are doing anymore, but there's definitely some advancements that have been made in the firearms categories in Michigan.
Yeah, I know for a long time Iowa was shotgun only, the whole state.
Yeah.
And now there's a couple of areas that they allow you to use rifle in. I'm not sure which one because I don't hunt Iowa, but I just know there's a couple of areas that they opened up to use in rifle.
Right.
I'm not sure if there's special season with I've never bothered to check upon it because I have no desire to go over there and shoot over in Iowa when I've got, well, right
Okay.
now I got plenty to do here in Nebraska.
Yeah. No, you
And it's
guys
a
have
whole lot cheaper
great.
being resident Nebraska as
Yes, it
opposed to
is.
non-resident Iowa.
Yes. Yeah, that's an investment of time and money. So,
Yeah.
you know, no, I hear that. I hear that. So, do you have any hunts planned then this year, or are you sticking
No,
with Nebraska?
yeah, I'm going to stick with Nebraska, but right now I'm just kind of working on, you know, being able
Re-
to hunt,
Yeah.
first because of, the other stuff going on we just talked about. But
Yep.
um, yeah, I'd like to get out there for archery, but I'm not sure if that's going to work too well. So I may get out, see if my son's got the crossbow. I would set that up and set up a blind because right now I don't know if I want to climb up in a tree stand. We
Yeah.
have we
Yeah.
have one ready. There's one out there in a
Yep.
good area where they come through, but there's another area that they come through that we're going to need probably put a blind up just because there's not a good tree close to it.
Right. Yeah, that's good time for the archery. Good time for that traditional bow. It'd
Yeah,
be good rehab and keep it close.
yeah. Keep it
Yep.
close.
Keep it close. Well, no, that's great. Well, I hope that all works out and you're able to get rehabbed and right back after it. And you still got a couple good months in front of you there. So I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
faith
We're
you'll be
still
able to
early.
make it happen. Yep.
We'll start
Yep.
early. The bands are helping out, and I'm starting to get some back, but it's taking a while, and
Yeah.
that's what you got to do. And so, anyway, do you have anything? What's PSE coming out with that you can actually talk about? Something new, or what's their new line that's out?
So
That's
yeah. So like most companies, we'll stick with what's out. We have we have some stuff that we're working on that we're very excited about for the new year, right? But the last year in 2024, the Mach 31 bow of the year. That bow is actually one of the bows that I was speaking of. I just didn't name. That bow is 30 inches axle to axle, and it goes out to 30 inches of draw, roughly. Um, what a fun bow. I mean, when we were talking about bow hunting out of a blind or out of a tree stand, that bow surpasses all expectations on paper. It's just a joy to shoot. Set up properly, it's very, very stable. And I don't feel like I give anything up as far as accuracy at long distances. And I've never been a short axle to axle person. And that's by far, in my opinion, outside of the X Force, which we're going back now quite a few years, is
yeah,
one of the best bows I think PSE's ever come out with, personally. We've got our EC cams. They're highly adjustable. It's got a rotating draw mod of half-inch increments. The high let-off module is 90, 85, and 80%. Every time you move from one position, so if you move it from 90 to 85, you reduce the draw length by roughly an eighth of an inch. Um, so that can help, fine tune your overall draw length if you're looking to do that, increase holding weight. But that cam system has been around for almost a decade, and it really speaks volumes to the validity and all the tunability that it offers. A lot of people have come to know that cam and think that it's one of the most enjoyable and smoothest cams on the market. So that's still currently in the lineup. The 2025 offering, we brought on the Mach 33. The riser designs are relatively the same. The process of assembly and building are the same. Still, again, all made here and manufactured right here in Tucson. Super proud of that. We feel like we do the carbon bows the way that they're supposed to be done. You're going to hear the marketing side of things as far as, oh, it's warm to the touch in cool weather, and those are all very true. There's validity to that, but the way that I like to categorize carbon, if it's an area of interest for consumers, is you're really getting a blank canvas when you go to a carbon bow. you're able to put the weight as far as stabilization in areas on the bow that you desire, instead of dealing with a natural tendency that the bow has, maybe to fall forward or to fall backwards, and then using stabilizers to counteract that. Um, with carbon, you can really do more from a stability and balance standpoint with less weight, because the mass weight is lower. Our carbon bows are right around that 4 pound mark, um, and you get all that adjustability. So that's really where we are focused at this time. And we have a great offering in our aluminum line too. We've got the Decree, which is a 31.5 inch bow. That bow, I shot that before it came out for quite some time. One of the things that I really enjoy is when I say I shot a bow, it's not just throwing a whisker biscuit on it and shooting 50 arrows downrange. I mean, I really enjoy kind of understanding what each bow is looking for. Obviously, that's based off of my shot style, right? It doesn't apply to everybody else, but the thing is each one has its own personality and things that it's going to do better under certain circumstances. And I try to figure that out. That way I can provide that information to consumers. Um, they don't have all the time always to determine what is going to work best for them, and they rely on people to be able to try to articulate that and paint that picture for them. So I really try to do diligence and understand our product in that manner.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to kind of see what was there, have you promote some of the bow lines that you have. And now, are
Yep.
those bows in the main line or the pro line?
So those three bows are going to be in the Pro Series line. The
Okay.
next bow that also resides in that Pro Series line is the Drive. That's more of our, I won't say entry level, because it's not entry level. For the amount of performance that you get out of it, the guy that wants to get out in the woods and have a reliable piece of equipment that's going to be highly efficient, that bow is your best bang for your buck. I mean, you could purchase that bow off the shelf, um, and not be in that $3,000 price mark, right? I mean, you could go in there, and depending on your dealer, right, they have the ability to price their products where they want to be priced. But I feel very confident you could go in there and purchase a Drive and everything that you needed and walk out at, $1,500 and have an awesome experience. So that the Drive falls in that Pro Series line. And then you have the Brute and the Stinger, and those are in the main line, the core series. And the Stinger is a single cam. Uh, Benefits of that is single cams are widely known for being a very smooth draw system. Now, they may not be the fastest. That's not always the case, but you really get a nice experience with that bow for somebody that's wanting to get into archery. And it's not crazy expensive, and to categorize crazy expensive, I mean, you can get into a Stinger and a Brute for well under $1,000. I understand that is a lot of money, but when you look at the flagship series bows, the Pro Series lines and competitors lines, some of the bows bare are $1,500 all the way up to $2,000 or $2,100.
Right.
So, so to be able to get into a quality product for well under $1,000 and have that same enjoyable experience, there's a lot of value in that. And that's what the Brute and the Stinger would both provide. So,
And that Stinger's been around and the Brute been around for quite a while.
oh yeah. Yep. That's a, it's like a, it's almost like a heritage name. It's in the
Yeah.
Brute and the Stinger is in PSE's DNA. We've had
Yeah.
it for quite some time. So and it's been good. It's been a good product line for us, and dealers have known to trust it. Right. I mean, it isn't just a fly by night name. It's been in there. It's one of our roots right now. So.
That's been kind of the last 10 years, last 20 years ago, it was the Nova bow line.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And um, I carried a lot of the nose. I carried two right hand of each of the three sizes and a left hand,
Yep.
and that's why my last year I had my store, I sold 40% of my bows are left handed
Oh
because
wow.
I stocked left handed bows.
Yeah.
Nobody else
Yep.
stocked left handed bows. As a beginner, you want to shoot a right handed bow and then say, oh well, maybe it'll work left handed. So he'd come into me and I had left handed bows, so I'd sell them. And
Yep.
I just ordered another left-handed bow in. You know, I had
Yep.
a few of the upper ones. One of my
Yep.
staff shooters was left-handed, so he always had, we always had an upper end bow. It's like you try it out. And one time, the bow come in for him, and somebody was he was there, and so he actually sold him his bow that just came in, and we ordered another one in for him.
Yep. Yeah.
But the staff shooters, they get their bow cheaper than I can buy them anyway because they're out there promoting it. And so I just ordered another one in, and here you go. Here's your bow now.
Yeah.
Set it up.
a-
Let's go.
Any bow hanging in a bow shop is never a safe bow.
No.
And when I say safe, I mean it's never safe from being sold.
Right.
So the equipment's safe, but the opportunity to sell it is always lingering.
Oh yeah. And
Yep.
your staff shooters understand that. That's what's in there. If somebody comes in and wants that bow and needs it now, try it out. If they don't want to wait for it, then sell them the bow. And staff shooters normally going to have more bows to shoot.
Yeah. Yep. No,
And
they can be a great resource for shops and for companies for sure. Absolutely.
it, and I like the way PSE did. I'm sure they probably still do it, but they only changed their main line every other year, and then the Pro Series the year after. Is that still what their policy on doing that, or?
You know, I don't want to say it's a policy, right? But the last thing we every company is always trying to come out with something new, right? And I think a lot of that is understanding what the consumer demand is, and equally as important, what the shop demand is. So it's easy. I shouldn't say it's easy. It's an easier approach just to come up with something and say, hey, this is what you need, right? But that doesn't always equal success. So we feel one of the things that we bring to the table is partnering well with our dealer base, and hey, what are you hearing? What are some of the things that you would like? And we make changes based off from that. We want to solve problems or perceived problems that the market feels exists in our product line. We every year that we come out with something, we feel like we produce the best product. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement, and we're always looking for those improvements. Our carbons, there was the Mach 1 and the Levitate and the Mach 34. And, I'd say most outside of a flagship bow, most of the companies are 2 to 3 years on product. That's what I see. I'm not saying that that's the end all be all or this is the way it has to be. Right now, that seems to be what it is. You know,
Yeah, and I like the fact that I buy a high end bow. I've got 2 years to sell it as a new bow.
right,
If they come out and I get it, and next year a new one comes out, well, now then that's an old bow, and now
right,
then I have to cut my prices. And well, you know what the profit is on a bow? It's not much per bow, no matter what's the high end or low end. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like I said, we want to make sure that we're putting out product that dealers want to support and that are excited about, and that consumers want. You know, so we'll address those. We address those things as needed. But
And when I had my store, all the equipment that come out from PSE was always, good quality. I, felt comfortable selling it because I
mhm,
knew it was good because, I'd shot, a lot of them already. Like the
right,
Nova, I didn't have a Nova that I shot. I shot the high end bows. But
right,
I've got to shoot them a few times, just to see what they're like, so I know
yeah,
how they feel. Now, the little 24-inch ones, I didn't shoot those because they're too short. I couldn't shoot those, but I'd
yeah,
shoot the ones of my length, and the smaller ones, they was pretty much the same, so there wasn't a lot of
sure,
difference between them. But
yep,
the different models, and they all
yep,
kind of felt a little differently, and you just try them, and they always felt really good. So.
yep. No, and I mean, if we get specific about product, I think one of the biggest things is obviously everybody wants to evaluate the shot and what they feel, and oh, does it have vibration and feedback, which I classify as two different things. Um, the grip to me is one of the most important things because it's really outside of aesthetics and appeal, shelf appeal. It's it's your first impression of a bow. It's your
Yes.
first point of contact. You're going to put your hand into that grip. And some people, I mean, if you're very specific and you really understand what you like, some people don't even have to shoot them. Now, I would encourage them to shoot them, right? But I mean,
Yes.
it's got to be comfortable in your hand, And that's, to me, it's one of the biggest things that I have found over the years, that you can get used to anything. You can, if you have the process, you can shoot any bow. That's how the high level pros are able to. They can jump from different bow to different bow because they understand that recipe that makes them successful. But from a comfort standpoint and a repeatability standpoint, the grip to me is a crucial area. You know,
Well, and that's the first thing, I tell archers, getting ready to look at a new archer is like, grab the bow, put it in your hand. You don't like it, hang it up.
yeah,
You find, okay, I like the way that feels in my hand. Okay, now that's one we're going to set up for your draw length and at minimum weight. And then it's go, oh, well, that one feels good in my hand. Let's try that one. Then you go to
yeah,
the range and you shoot them. If you're having trouble telling which one's which, well, get to where it's safe to do it and shoot with your eyes closed. I've done
yeah,
that before. It's like, okay, you're going to shoot the whole thing with your eyes closed. I'll make sure the arrow's loaded and everything. And so you're going to draw back and shoot. It's like, okay, pinch how that felt. And I'm going to put another in your hand and draw back and shoot. And it's like, okay, well, which one do you like better? And then say,
right,
and I said, now why? I didn't care why. I didn't really care why. I just wanted them to say why they liked that one better. And then
yeah,
if you got more of, one time I had like six bows out there and couldn't figure out which one he wanted. So okay, I did that. Okay, I like this one better. Okay, son of a. Okay, now try this bow and this bow. And I didn't tell him if I was using the same bow or not. But well, I like that one better. Why? And then okay, these are good ones and these are good ones, these bad ones. And finally,
yep,
okay, that's your bow and opener. It's like, oh, okay, that's the cheapest one out of the whole bunch. It's one for you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So much of it comes down to feel. But like you just did, I mean, taking the time with consumers is huge. Because if, to me, that's what they remember. The experience at the shop. Sometimes they don't remember the manufacturer, but the experience at the shop. Oh, what bow, what site? Oh, I can't remember, but this is where I got it. So
Yeah.
being able to share that positive experience with them goes a long ways. And the same thing for us. When we have consumers call in, asking questions, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity for us to provide good feedback, good direction, in hopes that maybe they'll give us an opportunity, and the next time they're in the market, or if they're actively looking, that hey, you know what, I want to try a PSE. I want to see what they have to offer. So
Yeah, and then customer service, what you guys do. One time, see, my Scorpion changed the second year and then they dropped it. Well, the second year was a single cam.
hmm
Mine as a two cam have a control cable, the Y cable, and the string. Well, the sticker only lists two numbers.
right,
And I wasn't sure exactly what my strings were supposed to be because they were old enough. And actually, the one string finally eventually broke. And so I call them up and give them my serial number. And it says, oh, it's supposed to be this number, and this. So give me three numbers. Okay, now I know
yep,
because they had the serial number and they give me exactly what was supposed to be. And then when I made them, I could make sure that I had the right length.
yep,
And that's something that is nice to be able to call up. And now if you don't have the stickers with your serial number on it, that's a little bit more difficult.
yeah,
But it could still be done. You can say, well, okay, they only made it 1 year, and so it's got a cam, and it's got a control cable, a Y cable, and a string. You go look
yep,
and say, okay, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. But it's easy to
yep,
just give them serial number because I
yeah.
keep those stickers on them.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you have the serial number, it gets a lot easier for both parties. But
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. There's a lot of sometimes on some of the bows that are quite a bit older, it can be a little bit challenging. If it's in the computer system, we're doing all right. But when I have to get into the filing cabinets, which I have in my office, that go back as old as I am, uh, that can be a little bit more fun.
Yeah. Well, and back when I was doing it, I've got the paper tune charts for a lot of the older bows.
Oh yeah,
And,
yep.
I don't ever see any of those anymore, but I'm not getting rid of those charts.
No,
Yeah.
no, they
Maybe
could be some
sometimes,
of the last in existence.
well, and if somebody goes, "Hey, I've got this bow," and it's like, okay, old PSE is like, and oh, I may even have new cams for it too, new
Yeah,
cables,
there you
control
go.
modules. I've got there's like three or four different cam models there, and I've got the control modules, for the draw length and stuff for
Yeah,
bunches of them in containers, all the different sizes, um, just stuff that's left, and
yep.
you know, they're probably worth a lot to somebody that needs them, but.
I Yeah, you're right. You're right. They probably are. That's funny.
So if you have an old PSE that's, 25 years or older and you need a module for it, get a hold of me because I've got a lot of the modules for the 2021 or 2001, 2002, 2003 in that era. I may have a module for you. So if you
Yeah,
have one, you need one, get a hold of me because we can make arrangements for them.
yeah, it could help somebody out for sure.
Yeah,
That's
and then I
great.
also have them for some other bows too. Because in the store they then everybody had modules, so you got all those little plastic things and all the different module sizes in it, and
Oh yeah,
all that, and you got to have those things, and all the little repair parts, and got
yep,
the little axle kit and stuff, and we got different axles or different lengths, and
yep.
all the different stuff that shows up with those old bows that yeah, it's nice to have them, but that's
That
something that
that's the that's the beauty of the new systems with the rotating module. It's much more user friendly for consumers and dealers. Your on
yeah,
hand inventory of modules is almost non-existent. Uh,
yeah.
you
Very
know,
few of them anymore have modules that you have to change.
yeah,
And sometimes the bows, back a few years ago, come with like three different ones that you change. This one works from this range, this works from this
yep,
range, and this works from this range, and you just switch them out and they come with the bow. So as long as you didn't lose the parts, you could always switch
good.
them.
Yep.
But,
Yeah, 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 and they do that. A lot of that, from my understanding, is they do that for performance. If you can, and that's one of the reasons our cam has been around so long. Is we are able to do so much with that from an efficiency standpoint and an adjustability standpoint. We don't feel like we're sacrificing, and that's huge. I mean, it's a win. Very rarely do you get a win-win, and we feel like we're in a win-win scenario with that cam. So.
yeah, if I get back where I can shoot again, I might have to go try out some of those other bows if I can find a shop that actually
Yeah.
carries the Pro line. Um,
Yep.
because a lot of the box stores don't carry them.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, because you have to
Yep.
be a pro shop, and the only pro shop is probably about 40 miles away, and I don't know if he carries any of the top end PS. He's a Matthews dealer, so the
Okay.
only pro
Yeah.
shop around is a Matthews dealer. Other than
Yep.
your box stores like Cabela's and Bass Pro, and they don't carry the pro line, only the main line, and
Yep.
that was advantage of being your own the shop is because I could carry the pro line and had a little bit nicer bows, a little bit better performance, and that they couldn't compete against me, and that was one of the things I did is like the Nova bow line. That was the main line that I carried,
Hmm.
just because I saw a lot of stuff beginners. It also
Okay.
included
That's right.
shooting instruction with all my bows,
Okay.
and you know, and then I always added a half a dozen arrows with tips and fletched, with veins, whatever colors you want. And I put a release in there. And back then, the Nova bows always creaked when you drew them back. They never
Okay.
lubricated the pockets well enough.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So all my techs knew when a PSE Nova comes in, first thing they do is they pull it apart, lubricate the limb pockets, put them back in, tie the string silencers on. We use how we tied them. We used to call them poofa balls because
Oh, okay.
you take the Bass Pro skirt, the Bass Jig skirting material,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd cut pieces, probably 3 inches
Two.
long.
Yep.
We cut like 8 of them. We'd wrap them around there, tie them on really tight, pull them and cut them, and then
Yep.
trim them up. They form little balls. We put them on top and the bottom, and then that was just something extra we did to the bows, and we'd put
Sure.
a loop on it, and with the I think that was the Patriot release. It was the True Fire, the cheapest release they had, which I
Yeah.
don't recommend you using. But we put everything all set it. I didn't do bow case because the plain old bow cases, which they're still making,
Mm-hmm.
uh, my cost to buy them wholesale was $5 less than I could go to Walmart and buy them.
Oh, wow.
So you could buy them at $20 at Walmart. I had to pay $15 plus shipping to get them in. So now
Yep.
I don't even have $5 profit. I wouldn't even stock them. So you need that
Well,
bow, go to Walmart. I can't get them. Now, if you want a good bow case, then we'd order them in. I didn't
right.
carry soft cases. I had a lot of different soft cases, just because they didn't take up a lot of room,
But that's what I
and
was
I
just
could
gonna say is,
I could get them cheap.
yep. That's what I was just gonna say is hard cases, they take up a lot of room quickly.
And I know I went to a hard case because I had my bonus soft case and never failed when I got out hunting with Randy. End up throwing stuff on top of my bow case, so I got a hard case, so he could throw stuff on top of it.
Yep. That's funny. Delicate equipment there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and I've got
Good.
stickers all over mine because everybody had the same exact same bow case, the same uh, you know, picture on the sides, and everything was all identical. And I got a whole bunch of different stickers on mine. I got like paintball stickers on mine. I've got all kinds of other stickers in there. It's like, cool, I'll stick a
Yeah.
sticker on there. I got a PSE sticker. I got all these different stickers on there just because it made my bow look different than everybody else's.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy to identify.
Yeah,
A lot easier too if you have to fly with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It wasn't really one to fly with. Um, I had I watched a guy that flew with his gun up to, I think, Alaska for a bear hunt or something, and he got one of the Harbor Freight cases, and those are really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And where you put your locks on there is reinforced.
Yep.
It's got steel reinforced. And when he got up there, two of the latches, which are really tough to open or close, had been opened. And when he come back, one of the locks had been ripped off of the gun case.
Oh, wow.
And they are tough. And it's like, that was Delta. And it's like,
Oh,
don't ever take your gun on a Delta airline. He always flew like American and stuff like that. Never any problems with it. It's like, how do you rip through a metal reinforced eyelet that has a lock in it?
yeah. They really wanted to get in there.
Yeah. And
That's
there's only
how.
one, so they couldn't get in there to get to them, but still.
Yeah.
And we was at Harbor Freight, and I seen those cases. They're like $150. They're
Oh,
airline
wow.
approved. I was like, oh, that's a pretty good price. Can't put a bow in it because it's not quite. Well, I don't know. Some of the new bows you probably could
Yeah. Yeah. They're
because
compact enough.
they're like compact. But I couldn't put mine in it because it's one, it wouldn't be wide enough to
Right.
stabilize in it because it's 24-year-old bow.
Yeah. That's funny. That's great.
Back when they had a little bit longer axle, and back then they get the real short ones, and I couldn't see through the peep because it's so far away from my eye.
Oh, yep.
And that's the problem with the little short ones is, as you get longer draw length, it puts that peep further and further away, and you can't really see it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing with some of the newer technology, the limb pocket angles, understanding how important that is. And, the cam designs are so much bigger now. It really, even though the axle is short, it really needs the measurement. When you had round wheels back in the day, axle, and I say round wheels, the smaller wheels, right?
Right.
axle to axle was really important because it gave you a really pretty clear picture of what that string angle would be. But now with limb pocket angles and how big the cams are, in my opinion, the true measurement is cam to cam because that's what's going to dictate your string angle. And that's how
Right.
you can really get away with shooting some of the shorter axle to axle bows. Well, that string angle is still nice and open, and it's not such a sharp angle like you're talking about, where it's you increase your draw length a whole inch just to get the peep close enough to your face to see through it. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's a good rule of thumb there. You know, longer axle to axles, a little bit longer D loop, shorter axle to axles, shorter D loop. Typically, guys run a little bit longer draw length. That's what I have noticed over the years, but doesn't
Yeah.
always run.
That's why you try them.
That's right. Yep.
That's why you try them.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, what would you recommend to a new archer? Now you work at PSE. I'm a PSE guy, so you know I would recommend checking out PSEs first. But that's just us. But what would you recommend to a new archer?
You know, somebody that's just getting in it, like I said, I kind of touched on it a little bit throughout this whole podcast. Is you know, find somebody that's willing to invest the time in you. You know, whether that's a dealer or somebody close to you that is knowledgeable about archery. And I would take advantage of every opportunity you can to evaluate product, get product in your hand, whether it's arrows, bows, sights, to make an educated decision about that. That's really the piece of the puzzle that you're looking for. You know, 100%. I hope you shoot a PSE. I want you to shoot a PSE, right? But I understand that may not be reality. So the goal would be for you to have a positive archery experience. Let's get you into a product that you're going to enjoy. Because if you're going to enjoy it and it's comfortable, you're going to do it more, right? You're going to have the desire to have that experience more often. And a pro shop will get that for you. You know, if if you walk into a pro shop and they're treating you well and you're a priority to them, that's amazing. You know, that is a great start. And I'd say you're going to have that experience with 90%, 100% of the shops you walk into, right? Now, if you go in the middle of hunting season, it's going to be busy, you know,
Yes.
and time has a value. So, but right now, if you were to go into a shop and you said, "Hey, I want to get into archery," shoot as many bows as you can, invest in quality product that you can grow, right? You can grow your experience with, and have fun. I would say keep an open mind. Don't paint yourself into a corner and get an education. You know, our biggest influences are people that we have around us. You know, if I'm a PSE guy and you're close to me, I'm probably going to get you to shoot a PSE. Doesn't mean the rest of them are bad. So shoot as many as you can, right? Get that education, find somebody you trust, find a reliable source that you believe you can rely on, and have fun.
Yeah, that's definitely where we need to go. It's like have fun. That's the whole thing. And
Yep.
like I'd say, okay, let's try the PSC first. Like
Right.
get somebody new, like the Stinger or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Entry level, don't look at buying the most expensive bow. You
No.
know, buy something that's in your budget. Get one of the ready to shoot packages. Like
Yep.
the Brute or the Stinger or something like that. It's a ready to shoot package. Don't worry about what rest is on it, what sights on it. Get that, shoot it. Spend the extra money on a coach.
Yeah.
Learn how to shoot correctly. And then later you're going to say, oh, okay, now I know why a lot of people like this sight because it's easier to adjust or this rest or
Yep.
you once you learn what's going on. I always just take, you know, new archer come in. If they didn't have stabilizer as the kit, I'd put the cheapest one I had on, just basically a hunk of metal.
Right.
and then shoot that. And I'd put a more expensive one on, shoot that. And it's like, can you tell the difference? No, we'll buy the cheap one.
Yep.
Why
Yeah.
waste your money?
Yeah, and that's the thing is for every expense you got to be able to quantify or justify what it does to aid in efficiency or performance or enjoyability. So I would say, going into a shop or just getting into archery, ask yourself a series of questions. Okay, where I currently am, what are my goals? What are my objectives? Where do I want to get to? What does all that look like? Because that creates the framework for you to go into a shop and say, hey, these are some of the things that I'm looking for. What product do you have that fits into that category for me? Right? This is my desire. This is where I want to get to. And the thing is if they take the time and they really listen to where you are at, you can grow with that shop then. Hey,
Right.
when I'm ready to go to this level, they're going to be able to meet the needs and satisfy, you know, what I'm looking for. That's perfect. That's your shops are very, very important. And yeah, I'm not discounting you've got a lot of online resources, and there's times where product is scarce. We just went through a time period where COVID, and that impacted so many people differently. One thing it impacted was supply and demand. And keeping
Yeah.
up with that. Thankfully, we're on the backside of that, and things are starting to normalize again. Um, but supporting your local shop is huge. That's my big thing. And if they can fulfill your needs, keep supporting them. Going back to our conversation about hunting and the insurance plan on the strings and cables. If you've got a good relationship with them, right, and you're in a bad spot, they're gonna take care of you. They're gonna take care of you. So
Yeah, definitely something to think about when you're getting ready to start an archery. And if you're thinking about getting into archery, get a hold of me or get a hold of Caleb. And even though we're PSE shooters, and I was a PSE dealer, you work for the PSE factory.
yeah,
That doesn't mean I'm going to tell you you got to shoot a PSE.
right.
You know, but let's work with you. If you're starting out, want to get started and need to learn, get a hold of us because we'll be glad to help you out with whatever you need. If you
Yeah.
have a question, ask it, and we'll do our best at answering it. I always say I have an answer for everything. It might be I don't know, but that's an answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And there
like
and
okay,
there.
I don't know. Let's figure it out. Like I had a guy call us. Can I shoot two arrows? I want you to set my bow up, shoot two arrows at one time. All the other shops said no. I said, okay, come
Yeah.
up after we close. Let's play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did. We set it up to shoot two arrows at one time. It wasn't a center shot riser.
Okay.
Uh, so I was able to use the stick on rest. Now, if a center shot riser, we'd had a little bit different challenge. But,
Yeah.
we set up to do that because it was something different, and hey,
Sure.
let's play. I said,
Yeah.
come in after you close because you can't afford me when I'm open. So come on, let's play. And we played for an hour and a half, one night after we
Yeah.
closed and just had a lot of fun. And that's what you want to do. If
Yeah.
you're not sure what equipment you need, get with somebody.
Yeah.
Then join the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group because we have people in that group that have experience. Like me with experience. I've been setting up bows for 20 plus years. I've been an archery instructor for 30 years now. So we have all kinds of other people in there that have other experiences. We have techs that have been there and really knowledgeable on the new bows. I'm more knowledgeable on the older bows. And like you being in the group, there's things that you could do. Just join the group and ask your questions. We'd be glad to help you.
Yeah. I'd take advantage, and this is the last thing that I'll leave you with as far as information. Uh, Archers are usually very willing to share their insight. Um, Not all of it applies. Doesn't mean that it's bad information, right? It's just maybe not adequate information for you and your shot style or your expectations. but there's usually never a lack of sharing when it comes to archery, which is a blessing and it can be a curse, right? You got to
Yes.
have a system in place to be able to filter through that and say, hey, you know what, I really like that. This probably applies. Implement it into the system. If it doesn't, hey, that's okay. It's just as important to know what it isn't as what it is.
Yes.
That's because if you don't try it, trying is the act of trying to achieve something different. If you don't try, you don't know. But the problem is you can't get into a hamster wheel effect where you keep trying the same things over and over, thinking you're going to get a different result. If it doesn't work, log that information, shelf it, and maybe it applies differently at a different point in time, and you can revisit it. But you're just really trying to refine the process and see what works for you. But there's so much information out there, and a lot of archers are very willing to share it, especially nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. There's especially now with the internet, there's all kinds of different options, and no matter what you want to learn, there's somebody out there teaching it. Maybe not correctly, but they're
Right.
teaching it. You just got to
Yep.
filter through them and say, okay, is this really good? And see somebody else say, okay, telling you, no, that's not right. Well, try it, see what it does.
Yep.
You
Yep.
may like it, it may work for you, it may not.
Absolutely. Yep. No, couldn't agree more. And even the information that isn't accurate, I think that comes back to that grounding, right? The reason that they're doing it is because they're excited about archery and they enjoy archery, and they're trying to pass that along to others. So I think intentions are good in almost all those situations. Um, so, like I said, just got to process it.
Yeah, and that works for them.
That's right.
You know,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
Well, it's been great talking with you. I know
Yeah.
we've kind of we've been on here for a while, but
Yeah.
some of them go long because we got so much to talk about and so much to learn. I've learned a lot from you, and hopefully you've learned some things from me, and I know our listeners, they're going to learn something. Every podcast I try to make sure that they learn something. But uh, if you want to listen to the podcast, remember you can get wherever you have podcasts or out. I go to Spotify and it sends them out to all the different places. You can always go out to audible.com and sign up for that. And that's kind of a good way to do it because every time a new one comes out, adds it to the list. If you want to watch the video, you can go out to my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself. There's all kinds of, not just archery, there's all kinds of stuff out there. That's why I call it Learn to Fix It Yourself. Sometimes I'm teaching how to fix your own bow, and sometimes how welding and all kinds of other projects out there. But that's what it's for. Probably the best place to get in there is the Archery Talk on Facebook group, and I'll leave links to all this stuff we talked about in the description, make it easier for you to find. And there, if you have a question, upload it to the group. We'd be glad to help you. And it's always a fun place to do. You don't have about anybody marketing to you because it's not a group we sell in. It's just all information. Um, learn how to shoot better, and it's a lot of fun. And I enjoy when somebody says, "Hey, I'm having trouble with my form. Upload a picture, a video, and look at it, and I'll go through and review it and give you feedback and what my thoughts are on it, and hopefully it gets better." And I've done that several times off of the video. And nice thing now is I can actually bring it in my editor and I can go frame at a time.
There
Not
you
like when
go.
we started, we had VCR tapes.
that's that's great.
Or worse yet, I had to watch you. So you're shooting and I'm watching it. And each time you shoot, I have to watch for something different. It's like,
Yep.
oh, okay, we got this, work on this, work on this. Where videos nowadays, oh man, it's just so much nicer because I can see all the problems just in one video take. As long as you know
Yep.
how to take a good quality video that shows what we need. And that's been a lot of fun talking with you.
Yeah.
Caleb,
Thank you for having me.
it's been so much fun and I enjoyed this. And you know, let's get together again. And maybe when the new bow lines come out, we'll get in there. We'll talk about the new PSE bow lines.
Perfect. Yep. I'd
Uh,
love to come back, and thanks for the invite. And it has been a great time and very enjoyable. And hopefully, through my ramblings and different rabbit holes that I went down, somebody gathered some little piece of information that'll be worth hearing.
Yeah.
So
And, comment, make a comment, if there's something that we talked about you want to hear more about, just let us know. We'd be glad to talk about more in detail. If there's something that, you're missing, hey, I, I'm here, Caleb's here. We're all here to help you out. So let's make sure we can help you if you need help. So it's been great talking to you. My name
yep.
is Roy Canterbury, and I have been your host here on Archery Talk 101 with Caleb Wesaw on here, and we have had a whole lot of fun today, and we talked for quite a while.
Yes, we have.
So, okay, well, we will